Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
All right, so we're not going live, but we're going to record in 3, 2, 1. This is CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer, with your host, Mr. Gameplay Goodness himself, Stevie Stroh. All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of CoCoTALK. This is episode 32, Hardware Talk. I'm your host, Stevie Stroh, with my shameful plug of the Royal Blue CoCoTALK t-shirt available at the Retro Swag Shop of 8bit256.com, including the CoCoTALK mug made out of genuine metal. Good quality stuff. And you can also get from there regular old ceramic coffee mugs too. We have a couple different designs here. The I'm a Coconut cartoon dude, who I like. And by the way, these are the ones that broke when I went to Tandy Assembly. Do you remember me telling you guys that the handles broke? And when I got to Tandy Assembly, the mugs I had to show off were broken. But but yeah, so they sent me replacement mugs. I just emailed them and have new mugs. So yeah, you can get coffee mugs, the old-fashioned mugs. You can get metal travel mugs. You can get t-shirts. You can get your CoCo swag. And we're here, and we've got a great panel. We've got a great topic this week. And this is now, again, pre-recorded, not live. I'm having internet issues, which will hopefully be resolved for next week's show where we can be live again. But this will be CoCoTALK 32. And the topic and the theme today is hardware discussions, hardware talk. And with me right now on the call is Mr. David Ladd is here. Everybody say hi, David.
Hi, David.
Yes, we have L. Curtis Boyle is with us from the Great White North, eh?
Hello, everyone.
And we have Mark Overholser is with us.
Howdy.
Fresh from the hair and nail salon, Jim Brain from Retro Innovations is with us today.
That's right.
And fresh from, he looks like he's wearing like an orange prison jumpsuit over there, but Ron Delvaux is with us in Ron's garage. He's working off his community chain gang service right now. So,
Right.
And we have with us Mr. Grant Leighty. He's an international fashion model, if you didn't know that. Also with us, Mr. Steve Bjork in his dashing hat there, looking quite dapper.
Hey there, everybody.
International software celebrity D. Bruce Moore is in the house with us, author of Forest of Doom. He graces us with his presence. I bow before you, sir.
There's the book.
Yes, the book, Forest of Doom. And last but certainly not least, also from the Great White North, Bill Nobel. How's it going, Bill?
Pretty good.
All right, so it's another week. Things continue to happen in the color computer community. I mentioned we have a topic, but maybe before we get into the topic, we can hear from Bruce Moore. Why don't you tell us how life has been since you've been on the Oprah Show and the Ellen Show and all these things like this and your book signing tour? How's it going, Mr. Celebrity?
Yeah, it's really hard, squeezing a little bit of time out of my schedule to show up to these events with a bunch of old guys well, anyway. It's been great. The launch was great. Really, I'm getting some feedback from some people who are playing the game, and it's really positive. There's some level of excitement, like the old days of having to wait for something to show up in the mail.
Yeah.
Some level of frustration too, but I don't know.
How retro.
Yeah.
Extremely retro.
Yeah.
Yes. Sales. I mean, I didn't have any particular expectations for sales, but I think as of today, I think there's 40, which is about double what I had ever imagined. So, and hopefully there'll be more yet. How much more do you want me to talk? Do you want me to go on about the stuff?
Well, I just want to say, this. I just got a message from my producer in the booth, and he has just told me that this is actually episode 33, not episode 32. So, this just in, folks. Yeah. So screw me. What do I know? I lose track. You're
just a hired help. So
yeah. What was that, Ron?
Has anyone won the cup yet?
Well, that may or may not be revealed this evening by Bruce.
Well, you tell me when you want me to talk about any of that stuff, and I'll go for it. So. Well,
you have the floor. Why
the floor?
You have the floor.
Okay. Can I do a little screen share with you then?
Sure. Share away.
Okay. Let me see if I can make this work here. Okay. There we go. You see that all right?
I'm waiting.
Coming through?
It's loading.
There we go. Oh, look at this. Okay, so I have a picture of Paul Fiscarelli, Fiscap, holding up the book. Okay, so that's Paul.
That's Paul. He's got the book, and he solved it.
He solved it.
The guy's a machine.
Hey.
Yeah.
He's not just a machine, though. He's got a bit of luck on his side, because I'll just stop sharing here now, and we'll kind of talk about what. So what I didn't anticipate with this whole retro sell the book, get the game thing was the widely varying shipping times, incredibly crazy, weird shipping times. Some guys ordering on the same day, and the book being printed right in Paul's case, printed 100 miles from him.
Mm-hmm.
And in somebody else's case, it being printed like in another country and having to cross the border,
Wow.
Ordered on the same day. And so it's, so Paul had he's got a legit win, but it's kind of sad that some people who ordered the book even on the same day as him haven't even got it yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, so what I thought we would do. And I talked over this, got some advice from some of you fine people here, is to run a second contest.
Okay.
Where basically give everybody a chance to get a hold of the thing, and play for a little while, and then everybody who wins will by a certain length of time, and sends me proof of winning. We throw all their names into a hat. Okay. And there'll be another special prize.
Okay.
Yeah, a special prize.
Okay.
And I was thinking maybe something like get you guys feedback on this, but I'm thinking maybe mid-December maybe. Okay. Maybe we could do a live if you're actually streaming live. We could do it like on the air,
Yes, we pick
like a
the
Jacob
winner.
to pull the name out of the hat.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I propose we offer David Ladd as a prize.
Oh God, no. No, you want people to play the game, Steve. So. No.
Where would I put him?
Yes. So Paul, I told Paul about the show tonight and the recording, and he wasn't sure if he was going to make it, but he wanted to pass on something here. If I could just read it here. Let me see.
Sure.
Says, I can't remember the last time I've been so eagerly awaiting the delivery of a video game. It was definitely reminiscent of the early 80s CoCo days. I like the way you did this release, but I also feel bad that for all the guys who never got their copy before me, and so he's happy that I'm doing another contest. So I guess that's maybe helping a little bit of his winner's guilt or something.
Yeah, sure.
You want to call it, so that's the story. Yes, someone has won the one mug to rule them all, but it's not over yet.
Okay.
Cool.
That's cool. That's exciting. You know what I mean? I think what you've done here has been pretty unique, pretty memorable. There's been a lot of buzz and a lot of anticipation about this leading up to this with all of your commercials and all of your trailers, and the fact that it was a mail order item, the whole 9 yards. I mean, yeah, it is. It's very retro. It's very, congratulations,
it's both
Brant.
retro and modern at the same time, like the advertising, the movie trailers and stuff. That's definitely not retro.
Yeah.
That's modern
because
times. So.
Budget constraints mainly.
Yeah, we could have done it in the 80s. We would have, right?
Yeah, they've just been huge budget. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the only broadcast medium back then would have been the public airwaves, which would have been a lot more expensive. I mean, right now you can produce the commercial yourself and air it for nothing.
Versus renting a TV studio for half an hour.
Yeah. So
there was cable, but still, community access, but still,
local
the
access
cost,
or something, huh?
yeah, the cost would still be tremendous.
But I think what this has shown, which I don't think anybody has doubted because we've seen this happen in the past couple of years, is that the community will support a project. We've seen it happen with John Strong stuff. We've seen it happen with John Linville stuff. We've definitely seen it happen in spades with Nick Marentes' Popstar Pilot. Rick Adams' new Bomb Threat did pretty well on both cartridge and now on digital CD distribution. So I believe there is definitely a market. The market's nowhere near as big as it used to be, but for this to be a hobby and a passion project, to have people support it and embrace it is exciting. I think it's awesome, and I think the value added package really works. Like what Nick did, where he bundled in some of his games and a video on his disc, and what Rick Adams has done with the CD, where he's got some videos of the old version of the game and the new version of the game on that CD, value added. And with your book, the strategy guide, being value added, it's cool. It's very cool. And
not to mention the background music track that.
The soundtrack that's unique too. So very cool. I just want to say I'm just honored to have been a part of it, and I'm very proud to be on that journey with you, and I'm very proud of you and for you, Bruce. So bravo.
Well, thank you.
And I'm humbled by the fact that you're still on our show now after reaching the big time.
For me to offer another prize, I'm going to have to sell another 2 copies to break even on it. So I'm living large.
You guys don't have dollar stores in Canada?
Yeah, it doesn't convert quite properly. Yeah.
I should probably call them the Looney or the Double Looney or something.
Yeah, the Looney and the Toonie store. That's
Looney and Toonie. There we go. Everything's $1 or $2.
Yeah.
All right, so let me go over some stats and numbers here real quick, and then maybe there was some feedback too on the video. So real quick, I'm going to switch screens. So last week's show, which was not live, the Forest of Doom launch party, got 125 views, which is not bad. What we have been averaging on CoCoTALK has been about a good week is about 200 views, but that's a combination of how many people watched it live as well as the replay. So that's not a bad number. Now, were there comments on that video as well? There were a handful of comments on that video as well. So Jeri Adams said, "Great show. I am jacked for this game." Jim Gary said, "Nice and spelling is correct of rumor with O-U-R."
The way civilized people spell it.
Yeah.
Rumor. So 125 views on the episode is not too shabby. I think there's definitely there's a transition since I've moved things to a new channel and everything else, but I think people are finding us and people are watching, so that's good. If we look at the numbers real quick on our downloads, we are dangerously close of reaching 2,900 download counts to the podcast in general, so that's not bad. We're going to break 3,000 downloads in the near future, so that's pretty cool for this little, secondary market of taking the same show and just releasing it with half of the sensory component to it. So not too shabby there. And on that same note, if we look at the all-time most viewed show right now, irony can be pretty ironic sometimes, because Nick Marentes, episode 22 of the Pac-Man 1.1 update, Nick was the guy that was saying, "I don't know why you want to make my accent's real bad, but yeah, he didn't know why we wanted to make a podcast," and ironically, his episode has gotten the most listened tos. Now, if we were to look at just the Forest of Doom launch party, that one has gotten 71 downloads. So between the 125 video plays and the 71 downloads, we're right in that 200 mark, because I also made the audio version available the very next day because I wanted as many people to hear this as possible. So you got about 200 consumptions of the show, so pretty good there, Bruce. So I wanted to share that real quick. And again, real quick, we'll just talk about some of the other websites we have out there. Shameful plug, tandyforum.org is a retro forum that you may or may not want to use, and you may or may not want to like or dislike, and we'll move on to there. So the Rainbow Online is a cute little website that we're throwing together because we're crazy and because we just don't listen to anybody's suggestions on what to do or not to do. So the Rainbow Online is a place where you can go and write an article and stuff. This might evolve more into an actual e-zine at some point in time, who knows, but that's out there. Again, that's just called the Rainbow Online. We've gotten a few new posts there. Some people are writing some of their bios and stuff, which is kind of cool. It is a WordPress site, so you can register and you can post and you can comment and things like that. If you are watching this show and you like the color computer and you want to know more about the color computer, you might want to check out imacoconut.com. That's imacoconut.com. Your one-stop shop for all your Tandy color computer needs. And if you want to support the show, you can go to our swag shop, 8bit256.com. Get yourself a t-shirt, coffee mug, DVD. I've also got links now, too, on the swag shop, where I need to probably add you in here, Bruce, but I think I added a link to get to Rick Adams' bomb threat. I need to add a link now to get to Forest of Doom. So I want people to be able to come here and get anything retro that we know about. Yeah, so I'll add you there. Remind me. Sure. And then, CoCoTALK is available live when my bandwidth works on YouTube, and it's available for replay, and it's available as an audio podcast at cocotalk.live, and we're available on Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. And in a little bit, as we move around and switch topics, we'll also talk about Ron Delvaux's latest offerings of his digital copy of the Rainbow. So there we go. That's a little something about what's going on in our views and feedbacks. And thank you to everybody who watches the show and who listens to the show. On that note, we'll get into our topic. But I guess before we jump into the topic, anybody want to talk about what they did this week? Anybody got any stories you want to share? Projects?
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Is CoCo TV going anywhere? Because they've had a little bit of new content on there. I think a CoCoTalk is on there. Have you talked to Mr. Taylor about maybe contributing shows up there or?
Well, we haven't had an actual analog human conversation yet. We did have a Facebook message exchange for a little bit, but I haven't. I would like to just talk to him. Actually, what I wanted to do is I wanted to see what CoCo TV looks like, because I don't even know what it looks like. I'm very curious to see it. I told him I don't mind collaborating with him and sharing some content to put on the channel, but I don't have any concrete plans or anything else like that. I'm in favor of anything that's going to help promote the spirit of the CoCo, but I don't have any direct plans or commitments or projects for myself at the moment, although he's welcome to use my content with my permission.
Cool.
Okay. One thing I wanted to bring up, too, it sounds like Paul Thayer has released Timberman as of this week.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I was going to show off some stuff from the Facebook posting at some point in time. That's neat. I got a peek at it, and it looks good, and it plays fun. Very fast-paced game based on a smartphone app, which is kind of interesting. We've seen a couple of those now. Steve Bamford, if you guys are familiar with Steve Bamford, Bosco, he released for the CoCo a game called Flagon Bird, which is kind of a clone of Flappy Bird, where you just kind of have to tap the screen to make the bird rise or fall to go through constant obstacles. And it's really a cool application for the CoCo to bring a modern smartphone type game to a retro platform. I think it plays well, so it's kind of cool to see that kind of crossover, to take something new and newish and
make it retro.
Make it retro. Yeah. Cool. So anybody have anything going on this week that they want to talk about? Your week in life in general, or in your hobby and your projects, things like that?
I do have another question. How hard is it to do TC? What is it?
TCP/IP?
Yeah, TCP on the color computer. Is it true that Commodore does it, or does anybody know? Can it go on an 8-bit machine and be represented somehow?
Commodore. I mean, there's a couple platforms that do. Commodore has it.
Apple. Apple.
Apple has it.
What does it look like?
I'm not sure if there's a stack for it.
When you browse, what it would look like? I mean, you have to have some kind of a graphical representation of the site, but yet not be able to see exactly any of it until like you zoom into one area or something, because it seems like it'd be overwhelming.
Well, I think primarily, I mean, I don't think web browsing is probably the primary focus. A lot of people do Telnet, a lot of people do mail, a lot of people do FTP. So more, IRC, more of the command line tools as opposed to the browser functionality, because you're right. The web or the graphical representation of the, like the graphical web, it's kind of tough to put that on a limited, resolution screen.
Right.
And the nightmare of trying to support cascading style sheets and JavaScript and all the other things. Most web pages, you'd be lucky if you got a little bit of text up there. But, when you consider the average web page to download is sometimes on the order of 512 megabytes, you'd use all your RAM.
Yeah, so the fact that we can get on the quote-unquote internet is one thing, but surfing the web as a traditional browser is probably not a realistic application. Is that the takeaway from it?
Yeah, but believe it or not, the CoCo could be a web server.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to serve a page than it is to display
render it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a good note, because there's folks who do that. In fact, I think you can just Google for it, and there's a couple of them that are on the web, Apples and Commodores that are on the web. And so here's the deal. I mean, there is a TCP/IP stack available for the color computer, because there's an Ethernet card that's prototyped. So I made a couple of them, and I gave one to Brett Gordon. Unfortunately, the stack is available on that new operating system, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because I forget how it's pronounced.
Fusix.
Go ahead. Somebody else can pronounce it.
Fusix. Sounds good to me.
Okay, well.
Achoo!
That's right. So, anyway, the key is somebody needs to... So a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, but a number of years ago, a guy by the name of Adam Dunkels created a very, very small TCP/IP stack called micro IP. Actually, it's an IP stack. You need to add other protocols to it, but it was a very small IP stack. It runs in like a couple K of RAM, and he released it. It's written in assembly, and it can be ported to most microcomputers. And so he made a version of it for the 6502, and there's other versions of it for other smaller computers. And I believe that's what Brett took. He took that and converted it to run on the 6809. And so somebody just needs to kind of do that, but have it run in OS 9 or have it run on the native CoCo.
Yeah, and years back we had the KA9Q port, which is a slip-based for modem protocol that actually had TCP/IP, the SMTP mail protocol, FTP, IRC chat. It was a whole big, package that you downloaded and installed. But I don't know if anybody's used it lately, because it basically required a modem and an RS-232 packet. We didn't have an Ethernet card, which would be a lot more advantageous.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, doesn't DriveWire address some of these needs? Because doesn't DriveWire act as your conduit?
Yeah, it can do that too, yeah. In fact, didn't Brett use that with his game that he was demonstrating? Yep.
He did.
In the RC chat.
He indeed did. So you can do both. The key is I think some people consider DriveWire a little bit cheating of putting the computer on the internet, but I guess it's depending on how you define it.
Okay, I'm getting a Skype call from Michael Brant, but why is he showing up in? Yes, he is. Hold on one second. Let's add Michael Brant to the group call. And this might be a first, having Michael Brant on a CoCoTALK. Qui-Gon Jinn himself. Maybe not. Okay. Okay. So it sounds like there are some options, but it's not for the faint of heart, and it doesn't seem like it's a turnkey solution just yet, huh?
Not yet. Yeah. Not yet. Takes a little bit. It's gonna take a bit more time before it gets ready for prime time.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just a note on the web browsing. I mean, there used to be the links. I don't know if it's still maintained. There used to be a links.
I think so.
text-based browser, but as Steve mentioned, most web pages are so far from that now that it's not as useful as it used to be.
Yeah, I remember in the old days when you made a website, they told you to make it text, for, I guess, people who are blind or whatever that go to websites and so they can...
You have all the alt tags and stuff to read out stuff on the screen. And
Yeah, but the programs out there for the blind have gotten so much better, they can handle the modern pages.
Can
yeah,
they
and
read,
that's why Links isn't supported.
Can they read text on a picture now?
Can it read text on a picture, like if there was as part of the photograph itself?
Yeah.
A lot of them have OCR built in, so they can handle that type of stuff.
Wow.
Cool.
Impressive.
Well, they've just been building on technology, just as the web browser's been building on technology. You know, if we go back to the beginning of the internet like that, the CoCo would have no problem doing it, since most of the machines weren't that much faster than the CoCo. But now machines have gotten faster. People want more options, more luxury, more capability, not only in the computer, but they also want that in the web browser.
Yeah. I used to actually log in. We had a Unix-based Freenet over here 15 years ago, and they had it so you could log in with a VT52 or VT100 compatible terminal program, which we have several on the CoCo. And you could log into their Links browser and actually surf the web directly from your modem, and I used to use that all the time. But as Steve mentioned, that's not the situation anymore, because there's so many graphics and Flash and everything else. Well, Flash is kind of going away now, but so much HTML5, etc. on the web now. It's really hard to do that for the text-based browser.
The web as we know it is a huge moving target as far as technologies and stuff. It's always evolving and changing, huh? But to get on an IP network it's already happening. It's kind of like the old days now of Unix, where I remember the first time my brother showed me the quote unquote internet, and he was just like doing a telnet session somewhere else. He's like, "Look at this!" I'm like, "What is it?" He goes, "I'm on a server somewhere else in another part of the world," and I'm looking at it. I'm like, "Okay, so what?"
Back in the days of Gopher.
Yeah, like, look, dude, I got AOL. Okay, listen, you've got mail, and I've got people chatting with me. That's lame.
I used to be on FidoNet.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't have CompuServe my first two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Link.
You still remember your number?
71310, 1271.
Me too.
You're better at than I.
722073122.
Wow.
You guys are just making that up.
No.
Nope, you're reading off a phone number off of a wall there. Right?
That'd be kind of funny. You write somebody's CompuServe number on a bathroom wall for a good time. Message 71345.
Well, there was a couple CP chats devoted to that type of thing, so you could have.
Yahoo still has a few good groups for that. I mean,
I have a whole bunch of text sessions that I saved. You know, it has my number on there, and I'll log in, and it shows everything. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I've got some of the old message bases actually up on my site.
We were talking about that earlier today. Like, how are we going to keep records for the future as we go more and more digital, and we have less physical traces of our existence and our contributions to this planet? What are future generations going to find from us? You know. And then we got into that conversation about even like old databases from the 80s, how they need to be converted. And, you know, it just seems like the more you get away from things, the harder it is. Like right now we can still enjoy Mozart and Beethoven because that stuff was written down. You know, I just think it's a shame that, you know, a couple hundred years from now, nobody will know who Justin Bieber is, for example. So,
even today, do we care who he
somewhere,
is?
Though. Forest of Doom is print, man. It'll be on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, Forest of Doom will last.
Therefore,
People
so will I.
Wondering what was this?
Yeah, right.
So, Steve, you're about to say something? Bjork, I should say.
I'm just saying, even today, who cares who
But-
he is?
I take it we have a non-believer in the audience here. So.
There may be more than one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. Good times, good times. So back to the original question. Anybody had anything interesting going on this week in retro with your projects or anything you came across that was cool or interesting?
I can mention on behalf of Bill, Dave, and me, we've been working a bit more on the ease of use version of Nitrous 9, and we hit a couple of snags, which is why we haven't got a alpha ready for you and Grant yet.
Okay.
There were some corrupted files that got on there for some of the Sierra games and stuff that pointed at a few things we had to fix, which we're in the midst of fixing now. So we're a little behind from what I was hoping to be, but it's still going.
So what is your goal again?
Ease of use.
What is your goal again? To have boot disks that do things?
Point and click.
Yep.
A standard
to fire up
boot
a
image.
to use where you don't have to read a 1,000-page manual to figure out what the heck you're doing.
Cool.
Hey, have you got your CoCo 3 yet? Hi, this is Rick Adams, author of Temple of Ram and Shanghai, and you've tuned into CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer Stevie Stroh here, and if you're a fan of vintage computing and retro gaming, then you're going to love our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. There you will find custom designs by Instagram artist Joel M. Adams. You can get I'm a Coconut, CoCoTALK, and other cool video game images on a t-shirt, coffee mug, or mouse pad. So if you love retro, then head on over to the retro swag shop at 8bit256.com today. Tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you. Yeah, a standard image that just boots up, and it's a point-and-click way to run software and be able to use the operating system and enjoy the programs that are on the image,
Yeah, we'll be cutting that 1,000-page manual down to 998.
Sounds like a leap.
Major optimizations there. So
Sounds like a noble quest to me.
Yes,
a very noble quest.
I had one interesting story, which I believe has probably been mentioned on the podcast and the CoCo Crew podcast, and we've probably had these conversations before. The question comes up is, how do you explain the retro hobby to somebody who's not in the retro hobby? And I actually had to do that the other day. You know what I mean? So, and the best analogy I was able to come up with was, because I don't remember how we got on the topic, but I'm like, yeah, because he was like, oh yeah, I use my computer to watch YouTube and this and that and the other. I'm like, oh yeah, I do some old vintage computing stuff on YouTube. And he's like, well, first I had to explain what that was, and then I said, not. He goes, does people watch that? I go, not only do people watch it, I go, I got a weekly talk show that people watch where we're talking about a 35-year-old computer. And he's like, why? And what? He's like, why isn't an old computer slow and stuff? And I'm like, yeah. I go, but it's kind of like. The best example I could come up with is like, don't you like, I said, wouldn't you be able to appreciate a classic car, like an old muscle car? It's something that they don't make them anymore. They're really cool, and they're actually in a lot of ways are easier to understand and work on and use than the modern things are. And it's like, oh yeah, I could see that. So that was like my best example. Is like, and because he's thinking, well, why would you want an old PC? Because it's just a slower version of a PC today. I'm like, well, these are actually kind of pre-PC, so that's what makes them kind of interesting. Before the PC became the thing, there were a bunch of these other things that just don't exist anymore, and there are no new versions of these things. So,
well, we have a faster version of slow now with the 6309.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into
viruses.
Yeah, no viruses. All right. Let's jump into the topic, or let's. do we start it off? Do we start the topic off as Grant's newbie question, and that leads into the tech
I want to do one correction.
Okay.
What do you mean no viruses? I even wrote one.
Okay, widely distributed then.
I may have it. What is it?
That's only because somebody told me it couldn't be done, so I had to prove it could be.
Yeah, I did one on the Apple II too, because I got told the same thing back in high school. So.
There were viruses.
Yeah. Go ahead, take it away, Steve.
All right. So the main topic today is going to be kind of a hardware talk, but it kind of stemmed from I think it's going to stemming from a newbie question. So should we start this off by you asking the newbie question of the week and have that turn into tech talk?
Sure.
All right. Well, let me cue up the infographic and music here. So hold on just a second here. All right, everybody, it is time for Newbie Talk with Grant Leighty, featuring the newbie question of the week. And now, my man, Mr. Fashion Model himself, Grant Leighty.
All right, how's it going, guys?
It's going good, Grant.
All right, well, I have come to a little bit of a problem. I'm running out of things to buy for my CoCo 3. And
I have a problem. I have a friend who has a problem.
So, and actually, I have a friend who's trying to solve that problem for me and offered me a new Dragon 64 in a box.
Ah.
I talked to Steve about that. He's like, yes, that's one of the things you must have. It's one of the unicorns. They're hard to come by nowadays.
The unicorn.
So my question is, what are the other unicorns that if you see on eBay or maybe at the auctions, should you get?
Brazilian clones.
A disk drive for your Dragon.
Yeah.
Disk drive for your Dragon. And is Michael Brant, are you able to go audio? Because Michael Brant is the one who was going to sell the Dragon to Grant. I think Michael's in the call, or Qui-Gon Jinn, as we know him as. I'm not sure if he's muted or if he's working or not.
And I guess there's two parts to this. There's two ways you can answer this depending on what you're focusing on. By unicorn, do you mean like very rare things that are hard to find, or do you mean stuff that every CoCo/Dragon owner should have in their possession?
Hard to find things. Software, hardware, that type of thing.
Okay, so rarity is what you're shooting for.
Exactly.
Multi-packs.
A TC9, I would suggest, or MM1.
That's another one.
What were you saying, Bill? Was the first thing you said?
Multi-packs.
Multi-pack. The multi-pack interface.
This is Bruce. I would love one of those little X-Pad drawing doohickeys. That would be very.
Yep.
They're slightly uncommon. I got one in the box. I had a real one back in the day when they were on clearance, because I think they started off really expensive. They were several $100s when they first released, and I think when they went down to like 99 or less is when I picked one up. It was a neat little device.
If you're into music on the CoCo, I would suggest the what was it called? The CoCoKestra, the 16-channel MIDI hardware card. That's another one that worked with Altamuse and Lear and a few others.
Interesting. So right now we're going to talk about what are the rare and unique items to have. Is that where we're going with this right now, Grant?
Yeah.
How about ears?
Oh yeah, the audio synthesis. I remember it didn't work all that well.
No, it didn't.
Well, you always looked at the ad and wondered if it was something you actually wanted to put on your machine and try, but I never had the money for it, so I never.
Is
got
that the one where you were supposed to talk to the CoCo, like it would digitize your input?
Yeah, its accuracy left something to be desired. Bill and I had a friend of ours that actually had it, and we did. And you have to sit there and pronounce everything perfectly, so you'd be going "der," and then it was such a list. Damn it!
Yeah,
"Der," and then would do an actual directory. So it was a little bit hit or miss. It was an interesting technology to demonstrate, because when it did work, if you trained your voice and you actually spoke the same way every time, it actually did function. And you could program like 10, 15 commands in it that you could do by voice.
Michael put in a text message. He said, muted at work and CC bus 6-slot bus expander.
A what?
Oh, right,
bus.
yeah.
So
I sold one to Linville, a bus.
Yeah. It was Colorware did that, if I remember.
So that's
Color was a software division.
That's a mega multi-pack, basically, a 6-slot bus expander.
Yeah, it came out before the multi-pack, from what I remember. It was meant to be more of an experimenter's board, and they sold a bunch of boards, analog to digital, and all kinds of stuff you could plug in for experiments and projects. And
he's saying PBJ was the one he had.
Okay. Yeah, because I think PBJ was the hardware division and Color was the software division of the same company or the same head person, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder how many freaking things you need to plug into your CoCo that you need a 6-bus expander. You know, it's just.
Well, we could use that at work.
You should have the goal of having it so that when you turn on your CoCo, the lights would dim just for a brief time.
It's like
Let's just say that more than a half dozen Apple people have maxed out all 8 of their slots in the Apple.
Yeah.
So
I was just going to say it's Apple envy. That's why they wanted to have
Apple
a 6
envy,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, Apple envy.
And there's some other pretty rare hardware bits I would mention too, like some of the Z80 CPM boards. There was, I think, 2 of those. That actually you got CPM and you got a $250 card that plugged into the Zone Z80 and an 80 column card built into it, so you could run that operating system on the CoCo.
Nice.
Did that need a separate monitor?
Nope.
I think it worked better if you had a composite monitor, if I remember correctly, but I never had one of those. I just saw it. The Exatron floppy, those hard cartridges, those 3-inch cartridges that were kind of came out for 3.5-inch drives.
And it's out of curiosity, Grant, are you writing all this down?
That's the power recording.
Yeah, didn't Exatron make the stringy floppies?
Sorry, that was those stringy floppy. Who did the Amdisk?
Amdisk. They had the 3-inch.
Sorry, yeah, I mixed the two up. Sorry.
Yeah, there was also a 3.25-inch floppy drive back in the day too, but I don't remember what brand that was.
Really, I don't remember that one.
There was a 3, a 3.25, and a 3.5. So Sony was 3.5. Amdek was the 3, right?
Yeah. Could you ever use 8-inch drives on a CoCo?
Yes. If you had the high density.
I would ask that.
Yeah, if you had the high density mod, you could. I don't know too many people that actually did, but.
Or you go SCSI.
Trying it, but.
Well, yeah, there were hard drive adapters too, right? Hard drive adapters, SCSI adapters.
Oh yeah, there's multiple ones of those.
I've got one technology you guys probably forgot about: bubble memory.
Oh right,
bubble memory actually came out on the CoCo.
What is it?
It's basically memory that's set up like it's in a ring, and you spin it around, and you grab the bits as they come around.
It's useless.
Well, yes and no, because it was non-volatile like floppy disk.
Yeah. Okay, get yourself a CoCo SDC and be done with it.
Well, this kind of predates it by at least 30 years.
Yeah, I remember Color Computer Magazine had an article on building a 128K bubble memory.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Paul Dennis Bathroom Kits. Yeah, he was going to actually sell a kit with those, and right as they're about ready to go to production, Intel said, "Sorry, we're dropping this."
Yeah, I think he might have even done the article in Color Computer Magazine. I have to pull it up.
I think he did.
Hey, you know what I had on my Color Computer 1? I had a 128K upgrade, and I had banking software that came with it.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was a 256 and a 512K upgrade for the CoCo 1 and 2 it was a company in Montreal. What the heck was it called? Might have to find it. They had advertised in Rainbow Fire. They also had a 68008 card years before Chris Burke was planning on doing one for the CoCo 3 that was for the CoCo 1 and 2 as well.
Ooh, I think they were called Le Ram.
They're too expensive for you. Yeah.
Yes. Michael Brant saying he's still looking for a word pack. Tell us what that was again.
80 column card.
80 column card that you plugged into your cartridge slot. You plugged a monitor into that.
Radio Shack actually sold that one through third party too.
Yep.
I use Super Screen.
That's a software.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few of those. There's Screen 51. There was the Solution by Snake Mountain Software, it was called. There was. I can't remember some of the ones, but
if you had a TV and you put it on 64, the colors were unusual. Hard to read.
Fringy, I think I used to call that.
So ease of use did not apply to that, huh?
Well, it was easy of use. It wasn't very easy on the eyes, though.
It was an ease of view, huh?
Well, you were all excited because you had the wider text and
lowercase.
Yeah.
What about software? Is there any hard-to-find software?
Is Telewriter hard to find now, or is it up on the...
I guess, are you looking for software that just doesn't exist anymore and you can't find it anymore, or do you mean just rare original software in the package with the manual?
Software that hasn't been ported over digitally and it's hard to find.
Oh, that one's easy. WeFax.
Oh,
Marty Goodman's?
Yep.
I have that. And I have a radio, and I have a jack that's modified so I can get the signal real good.
Do they still do the weather stuff on for ham for that? Or is that discontinued?
It's rare now, but you can find channels out there. You have to be very patient, and if you have a whole lot of time to screw around trying to find a channel. I have an analog radio. It's a Panasonic. It's 1977. Still works pretty good. And when you use the audio jack into your radio, I had to make a mod to it that would clip the frequencies so that it was some kind of a thing in Rainbow that I followed and did, and it worked pretty good. And I think I had the most success with 90 lines per minute coming in, or 120. It was pretty neat.
You should be able to download weather maps and everything on that, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you could read them almost.
Wow.
Almost.
Well,
Download.
getting back to our subject of hardware, since that's what we're supposed to be on, I had probably one of the somewhat easier ways to set up 80 columns on the color computer, and it didn't require a card. I took a terminal and just went out to the Bitbanger serial port at 192 and sent the data out to that terminal.
Yep. When we had our work system, we went through our 32 packs and various multi-card ones, but we had 8 terminals hooked up like that.
Yeah. Yeah, since I wasn't worried about, getting the terminal to send data back via its keyboard, I could use the Bitbanger board real easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite handy. Like Bill and I used to use Scred, and we had some other programs like for VT100 and stuff that worked back and forth. And we had a chat system from Keith Alfonso at AlphaSoft. He made for his multi-user BBS, but we hooked it up into our system with his permission. And we'd have chats where we could have text conference calls with up to 8 people plus us on the main CoCo, simultaneously all talking to each other in one massive chat room.
Yeah, some of the early days of doing color computer development, I had that 80-column monitor sitting on top of a CoCo 1.
I just thought of another piece of hardware that's quite rare, and I haven't seen too often, but Oblique Triad, the guys who did Those Darn Marbles and a few other games like Seventh Link, they also did a hardware card for audio sampling and editing. StudioWorks Pro, I think it was an 8-bit DAC, or 8-bit ADC, I think it was. And basically you could actually digitize the sound in 8 bits right on from the hardware card and then manipulate it and merge samples together and stuff. That's pretty rare.
And what about new new hardware that's coming out? Things that I should maybe look at getting.
I don't know, Jim, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm just gonna hold this up real quick too. I don't know if you've seen this before, Grant, but the
Koala Pad.
The Koala Pad. Have you seen that one before, Grant?
Yeah, I have. I've seen that actually on eBay.
Yeah. So these are interesting. I don't know that they're completely rare because they do show up. But if you don't have one and you were going to look for one, I would say try to find one that you can get in the box. And what makes them a little bit harder to find as a whole package is when they come with the stylus. It's like basically a plastic pencil. This is a pressure-sensitive pad. So, I mean, technically you could use anything as a stylus and it would work. But if you wanted it as a collectible, I would say keep your eyes out for one that comes in the box with a stylus. I see them in the box quite frequently, but very rarely do I see one with the actual stylus included. That seems to get lost in the sands of time. That looks like Ron Delvaux is holding up his too.
Yeah, but so one of the things you need to remember about that, let me see if I have.
They're not real practical for anything, but
yeah,
they're collectible.
Yeah. Well, the key
they mimic
an
analog joystick.
Yeah. The key though is you need to make sure that you get the one for the CoCo, because Koala made one for the CoCo, they made one for the Commodore, they made one for I think they made one for the Apple. Yep. I think they made one for the Atari, and I think they made one for the TI. And I don't know that they're all compatible.
They have to mimic the joystick range. So.
Yeah, they are definitely not.
This one says TRS-80 touchpad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that must have been branded through Tandy.
Yeah,
they sold it through Tandy.
Yeah, so if you find one in the box that says Tandy in the box, you're probably good.
It's kind of like the Craft joystick, which was sold through Tandy.
Let me see if I can turn on my screen here so I can show you what a one in the box looks like.
Yeah, they average about $40-$50 when I see them on eBay.
See if I can yearly. Yeah, I'll have to get it here in a little bit, but I don't know if this one's got a stylus or not. So you're right, Steve. The stylus was always a problem, right? Because
yeah,
it gets lost.
Right, right.
Lost all the time. So,
and if I remember correctly, when you were programming it, like you read it like a regular joystick.
Yeah,
but I think if you took the pen off, didn't it immediately center or something?
Yeah, it automatically
I believe so,
centered back.
Yeah.
Which was good for if you're just tapping a game, but if you're trying to use it as an actual drawing pad, it sucked.
Yeah. Okay, Ron's holding something up there. That looks like the kind of.
Looks like a TP10.
Is that the one with the
GP 115?
Is that the one that had the plotter pens, or is that the thermal one?
Plotter.
Yeah, that's a neat little guy there. I had that guy. I had the one that had the 4 different colors of pens in it.
That's that one.
115.
Yeah.
We used that for our newsletter for some doing double column articles.
I remember going through and writing a driver for it so I could output large graphic maps of the games on that and then pasting the strips together.
Oh, wow.
Kind of, we did the newsletter too. We do 2 columns and not to the complexity you were doing, but
it'd be cool to find a silver one.
You mean the old TP10 thermal printer? Or?
The CGP 115.
Yeah,
Or was it 2 different versions of it?
I think
it came in silver when they first came out.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the one I had. I think it looks like Jim might be coming in. Okay, so Jim has an actual koala pad that is not the Tandy one. That's the Commodore 64 one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the actual device looks the same, but I'm sure the interfacing and something else is probably different too.
Exactly.
On the cover, you lost a stylus. Haven't used your finger.
Yeah, that was neat. That was a really buzzy thing for a while. It was kind of hot for a week, the koala pad, because it was on all of the different systems, and there was. I remember the Apple version of that. It had like the software, and they all came with their version of some type of drawing or painting program, and the Apple one did all the palette animations and stuff like that. So you could get rainbow effects in the background and everything. So every kid had their one, and it was kind of the pissing contest of what can I do with my koala pad that you can't do with yours and stuff. So it was kind of neat to have them. It's now they're interesting. I don't know if it's a complete unicorn, but I think it would be a nice thing to have one, kind of mint in box with the pen. The TRS-80 line printer. Like Ron never ceases to amaze with being able to whip something out there. So line printer 7.
Now what about like the RS-232 or the modems or what? I mean, as far as old stuff is concerned, there's the acoustic coupled modem and
that'd be kind of neat.
Connect modem. I know some people are really interested in getting the acoustic coupled modem. If you want to talk about stuff that you'll never use, but you put it on the shelf and it looks cool.
Yeah. Grant, didn't even know what he's talking about when he says acoustic up there.
Yes, I remember.
My cell phone doesn't fit in it very well.
Yeah. What are you holding up there, Ron?
What is it?
I don't know.
You guys can identify that, can't you?
I need to make your video.
Is that the Glenn sideboard?
Yeah.
The ID?
Okay. It's a little dark.
I have one over here myself, so.
Okay.
Actually, since we're talking about koala pads, I was going to mention, and Steve, actually, the very first show we ever did together had this one in there too, was the Wyco roller controller, the trackball. That's a rare piece to find these days for the CoCo.
Michael Brant is mentioning a Kenton Dual RS-232 pack.
Yep, or the AlphaSoft COM4, which is 4 serial ports, RS-232, 6551s on one card.
Mike says he's got a Wyco trackball for a TRS-80.
Another one if you've got a Model 1 or 2. The old Radio Shack plug and play, or not plug and play, but it is basically their X10 system.
Oh, the home controller stuff, right?
Yeah. Because I remember at one Rainbow Fest, they brought a whole bunch. They were selling the thing at $10. Its normal price was like $100, and they still had a bunch left over. And they said, "Here, everybody that's here on Sunday afternoon, just go ahead and take it." And people were grabbing 2 or 3 of them.
Wow. What are you holding up there, Ron?
It's a 321 megabyte hard drive, Caviar West Digital, that I was going to use with the Glenside board.
Wow.
So does anybody have an MM1?
I had one. I sold it.
Okay, Curtis is holding up the high-res joystick interface.
Just because Steve's on. I don't know how rare it is, but
I made a little bit of money at 25 cents each.
I've actually never seen them on eBay.
Very rarely do they come up, yeah. You familiar with that one, Grant, the high-res joystick interface?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then there was the CocoMax version of it too, wasn't there? There was a alternate version they did as a third party.
Yeah, they hacked it so you wouldn't have to plug it into 2 joysticks. You only plugged it in, or whatever. They took out one of the inputs to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ron's holding up a 2-button mouse now. So is this the Tandy Deluxe mouse?
Yep.
Yeah, with a big metal ball.
Metal ball in it. Yeah.
Yep.
But you gotta get both of those, right? Because isn't there one of them that's black and the other one is beige?
The black is a single button. That's the original CoCo 1 and 2 version of it.
Oh, okay.
I have that one. Yeah.
There's the black one.
There's the black one, the single button mouse. Yeah.
Got it.
They're just as heavy.
Yeah.
But they last forever.
Yeah. It's a good
physical
rehabilitation tool.
To go with that high-res joystick interface, what you have to do is get the Radio Shack analog color computer mouse. The one that plugs in the joystick port.
Yeah. I think that's what Ron was showing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's
you
the
weren't.
the high-res part. Yeah. You're talking about the red button one. He had the red button one with one button, and then he had the white button one with the white one with 2 buttons. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, that's the Radio Shack one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one I remember.
And then the white button deluxe mouse that came later.
Well, what was great about that guy is when you played Polaris with it, you killed.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I still prefer Polaris with the Wyco controller, though.
The roller ball?
Roller ball, like the old arcade did. It's perfect for that and Centipede. That's the 2 games that really, really work well with it.
Yeah, because that's how they were in the arcade, yeah. That's a great idea, trying to play Polaris with a mouse. That's awesome.
It's about as close to the rollerball you can get for something that was actually common.
You can turn it upside down and just spin it like a rollerball.
You skin your hand there because of the metal.
Yeah.
Not with mine, you can't.
The rollerball, you have to roll to the position. With the mouse, you're kind of almost instantly there. That's the reason why the mouse took over, and not the old trackball controllers for PCs and like that.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if you wanted accuracy.
Yeah,
but there was that. Like if you remember the old Atari black and white football from '78 or whatever it was. I mean, you just had people just reefing on that thing. Like you got exercise trying to play that game.
Yeah.
Didn't they use bowling balls for their trackball?
Yeah, they were big ones.
It was a big, yeah.
The one on my CoCo one here is about the size and the color of a cue ball from pool.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's way downstairs. So.
Does anybody have the electronic book?
I do not.
Electronic book.
Yeah, it was like a 3-ring binder.
I have 2 of them.
Oh, you do? Cool.
That's where they went.
What a surprise.
Ron, is there anything you do not have?
Well, if I don't have it now, I probably sold it. But
Does anybody here have or ever had the PT68K4, which was basically the third CoCo 4 alternative besides the TC970 and the MM1? It was a 68000 based, but basically an PC XT compatible slots.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that in radio electronics as a kit. You could make it,
so
but I
never.
I never thought of it as the CoCo 4. I mean, it makes sense now that you mentioned it, but that's the only thing I.
It was an OSK machine, and they actually did include the 6809 emulator with it that would do some of the text mode CoCo OS9 Level 2 programs. It emulated well enough to do that.
Okay.
And they ran G Windows. It was actually the only one. I think the other ones ran K Windows, which was
Did any of you guys ever use ML Basic?
With softwares?
I think so.
I fiddled with it a little bit. I had the ComputerWare one, and then I think Circomp had one too, didn't they?
I fiddled with it myself a little bit. This is Bruce. Yeah, I fiddled with it too, but man, certain things just don't work the way you think they should.
Yeah, like you had to force some stuff to go from reals to special integers, and all of them basically had that problem. None of them were where you could just take a basic program and just run it through. No, you had to modify every single one. So
yeah.
Are the CoCo 4s ever on sale on eBay, or are they pretty much gone?
I haven't seen one in a while.
I've never actually looked for one because I'm not even familiar with what all the names are.
Well, it'd be TC9, TC70, MM1, MM1A, and PT68K4.
Wow. I did not know there were that many.
Yeah. Has anybody ever set up like an eBay alert? Like I get emails anytime something that comes up says TRS-80, Tandy, Radio Shack, and I just scan through the emails for thumbnails of things I might want to look at. Yeah. Seems like you might want to set up an eBay alert for some of those because
it works well.
Yeah. It's a great distraction.
Especially if you have a lot.
Yeah. I am fortunate that I have both a wife and limited funding, or I would just be an eBay addict, and I'd buy everything I saw, and I would be on hoarders. And
have you not looked behind?
Oh yeah.
Well, it's not hoarding if you know where everything is.
If it all fits in one room, it's not hoarding.
Yeah, it's organized.
If you need a whole garage, maybe. Yeah.
I have 2 garages.
I've only got 2 shelves in a small confined space. So yeah.
Hi, this is Mark Overholser, and you're listening to CoCoTALK, the nation's leading weekly live talk show about the Tandy color computer.
What's going on, everybody? The original gamer Stevie Stroh here, and I want to talk to you about I'mACoconut.com. If you love the color computer like I love the color computer, then you got to visit I'mACoconut.com, your one-stop shop for all of your Tandy color computer links needs. There you'll find links to blogs and podcasts and project sites and emulators and downloads and groups and communities. If you love the color computer, head on over to I'mACoconut.com. That's IMACoconut.com. Tell them the original gamer Stevie Stroh sent you. CoCo forever, people.
So I have one other question, if I may ask.
No, you've outworn your welcome here. So yeah, no, go ahead.
Mike suggested that I should get the CoCo VGA for the Dragon. What's your guys' feeling on that?
I haven't used it, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, we've seen the CoCo VGA. So the CoCo VGA is a cool thing to for a CoCo 2. It's supposed to work on a Dragon too. I guess the question becomes because Dragons are fairly uncommon. I wouldn't call them unicorns or rare, but they're uncommon. Do you want to, defile the if it's like if you're Jewish and you tattoo yourself, you can never be buried in a Jewish cemetery because you've contaminated your body. You're no longer pure. So are you going to contaminate the Dragon by drilling holes in it to or whatever to have the VGA output? That's kind of your call. I mean, how pure and untainted do you want that thing?
How good was the composites for that?
That I couldn't tell you. I haven't taken mine out of the box yet, and you got to order a cable.
Yeah, the composite's really good. It's as good as the CoCo 3's composite. So if you're okay with the CoCo 3 composite, I think the Dragon composite will be equally okay for you. But if you, at least you didn't have to worry about RF. It has an RF output, but you don't have to use it.
Yeah, because the RF was terrible.
Yeah, and I have to agree. That was one thing I was worried about. I'm more of a purist. I don't want to drill holes unless I have to.
Well,
it's like the 6809, 6309 debate, basically. Like some people,
Okay,
now you could,
Ron's holding up a dust cover back there. Yeah.
You could. What is that? Is that
would this be software or hardware?
What is it a dust cover for? Is that for the cassette?
CCR 81 cover.
Yeah.
That would be coverware.
Okay. Well, the tape player is hardware. So.
If you really wanted to get the CoCo VGA, you could probably not cut the holes in the case and just kind of have the cable kind of snake out one of the ports that's already in the case. It just wouldn't look very nice, right?
Yeah.
So
I Velcro it someplace.
What'd you say?
I was going to say you could Velcro it someplace. Therefore, you could clean it up later if you want to remove it.
Yeah. I would say for me, because I've only got one Dragon and I'm very happy that I have it. I don't want to do anything to taint it. You know. Is that a CoCo 1 dust cover there, Curtis?
Yep.
Yeah, so those are somewhat uncommon. So dust covers, if you can find some of those, Grant, that might be a cool thing to have. I think I've got one that will fit a CoCo 2/CoCo 3.
It's even got the slot on the back there for your joystick ports. You didn't have to unplug them all to cover it up.
Right, and the cutouts, so all your peripheral ports were...
Yeah, and
actually, so do you consider... Go ahead.
No, yeah, actually I got one of those, but I spent like $35 for it. So.
Yeah.
So, do you consider the MC10 part of the CoCo? I don't know, family.
No. You're taking a step backwards with the MC10. Yeah. See, it was pretty much when the CoCo 3 came out. I go, "What's a CoCo 1?"
Yep.
Yeah, it was just like, don't look back. And I could never understand when Tandy came out with that little MC10. I go, why are you doing this? And part of the idea was, well, we want to come out with a cheaper computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it didn't work out very well, right? Because they only was in the market for, a year?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was trying to compete with the Sinclair's ZX8081.
It was a Sinclair
But
clone.
there is a little following for the little orphan computer, and it doesn't get a lot of love, so maybe you want to give it a little bit of love and pick one up.
Yeah, and those come up fairly regularly. I've gotten a few in the box for about $40 with all of the books and cables and accessories. So keep your eye out for one of those. Again, would I ever want to use it? I would never want to use it, but I'm glad I've got a couple. They're just on the shelf.
And of course, if you want software for it, Jim Gary brings one out about every second.
Yeah. Now, I also what I also purchased that I've never used is I have the MCX extender, which is it adds 128K of RAM. It adds the ability to connect to their version of DriveWire. I forgot what the name of that is, but it's another Ed Snyder. We're talking about hardware, new hardware. It's one of the Ed Snyder projects, but Ed Snyder actually made a better version of that also supported like sound chips and joystick adapters and a bunch of other stuff too.
Well, here's the thing I don't get. Everybody's into sticking the 6309 into the CoCo and like that. Hasn't somebody actually made a kit for that machine to put a 6809 in there, a real processor, not that 6800 derivative?
Steve, I really at some point would like to get an honest, transparent opinion from you about the MC10 because I'm really having a hard time getting kind of the real gist of how do you feel about the machine.
I think for the remainder of this show, if you guys are going to be calling me by name, just call me OG. So when you guys mention Steve, we'll be referring to Mr. Bjork. So there's no confusion.
The thing is, I had worked on 6800 computers before and moved on to things like Z80s where I had lots of registers. And then the 6809 came out going, oh, they finally got it right. And then, of course, the 68000, they definitely got it right. But anything that's derivative of 6800, even the guys that worked on it, some of them went off and made the 6502. Of course, those guys were nuts to begin with.
Did anyone?
But they sold a lot of them.
Did because it was cheap.
Repeat the question, Ron.
Did anyone see the Pac-Man play on the MC10? I think it's on the MC10 site. There's a little Pac-Man game that runs pretty well. It's like kind of surprising. Did you see the video?
I have seen that one, yes.
I think it's a port from a CoCo one too.
Well, I was surprised to see anything like that on the MC10.
Yeah, but we can't talk about it while Steve's here. Okay, so we'll wait for him to leave, and then we can sing the praises of the 6800 derivative machine, the little baby machine that just doesn't get enough love.
It doesn't get any love.
Didn't Rainbow call it the Poco at some point? Wasn't that their nickname?
The poor man's CoCo.
I still remember Tandy calling me up and asking me if I wanted to develop for it. And there was a long pause and the only thing I said, you got to be kidding.
Obviously not.
Who knows, Steve? You might have actually broken it. If you would have actually made some games, it might have sold better.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Show the video, Steve.
If he did, he might end up looking like David Ladd. He would have pulled all his hair out. So
that's true.
Hey! I resemble that remark.
Yeah. Plus, there's a pretty small market, so I don't know if Steve would have been too interested in that.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Atari 2600. That was a nightmare system to program, and I do know somebody that worked on it and literally went crazy afterwards.
Wow.
He was working with me at Datasoft, and we had to keep, while he was in the room, we had to keep the doors open because fireballs chased him, and he has to have an exit.
Wow.
Talk about.
I guess the thing is, I mean, you're right. At the time it was released, it was already going backwards from what the CoCo was. I mean, it was cheaper, but whatever. But on the other hand, I think in the retro community, there's a lot of the challenge of taking these old machines that had very limited hardware, CoCo being a good example, and seeing how far you can push it. And I think maybe that's part of the challenge nowadays, where I think there's a bit more of a renaissance of some of these machines that back then, people would just went, well, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, I see some of the people on there, they're playing with ideas, they're trying this stuff, and they go, yes, I'm the first one to do this. I'm going, this generation, but 30 years ago, other people were doing it, and they realized it wasn't any good.
So, yeah, you may or may not want to own one for your collection, Grant, but I would say keep your eye out for one. Something to add.
Steve, what do you have in your garage or living room? Do you have a CoCo set up? Or?
I currently do not have a CoCo running because I don't have enough room in my current setup. I do have a few arcade games, and I do have my PCs, which I thoroughly enjoy. But I'm looking at my closet, and I've got a box that's marked here, Color Computer Software and Source Code, and a few others, and I keep them in my main office so nothing happens to them. They're not out in the garage. Someday I'll really break into them.
Do you have a machine to pull out if you wanted to?
I've got several CoCo 3s, and I even have my original CoCo Model 1 development system with the 80-column monitor.
Cool. Wow. That would be neat to see a photo of if you ever get a chance to fire that thing up.
Yeah. And I modified it one time, and I put it in a Model 3 TRS-80 case.
Oh, neat.
That'd be attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen the opposite. Somebody took I think it was Color Computer News had the project back in '82 or something, but they had somebody take a Model 3 keyboard and then cut the CoCo gray case, CoCo 1, area wide enough to fit this keyboard, and actually had the numeric keypad and everything right in the case. It's quite the hack job, but it apparently worked.
That reminds me, there's one more thing of that hardware to look for out there. Get the deluxe Color Computer keyboard that was in the baggie that Radio Shack was selling in their stores. Get it where it's still in the baggie. That's a real collector's item.
That had a different color background than the CoCo 3 final release version of that keyboard too, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Was it a gray color or something? Dark gray?
Dark gray.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, actually, speaking of keyboards, another one to mention would be the HAM. Yeah, the numeric keypad edition they had, as opposed to the actual just plain 57 key keyboard.
I have 2 number jacks.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is all those accountants just wanted to use that color computer to do all their work on.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim and I were talking about that the other day, about, just keyboards. There were keyboards back in the day. Does it make sense to make a keyboard replacement now? I don't think financially it does. Maybe the Mylars might need some replacing, but there were a couple of custom keyboards for the CoCo, especially the CoCo 1 that had the chiclet keyboard. There was a decent aftermarket for CoCo 1 keyboards. And I was kind of wondering now, like, is it make sense to make a new modern keyboard replacement for the CoCo that would fit in place? But I guess the logistics of designing that and buying all the parts and stuff probably don't make it cost effective, but it would be kind of a cool project.
Cloud9 has that thing. You can add to your machine and plug in a
AT keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the best solution. You can get really nice 101 keyboards or 102s.
Yeah. It would be kind of cool if it would fit in the CoCo, though, but that's just probably not cost effective to design that.
Yeah, until 3D printers get to the point where you can duplicate the whole keyboard.
Yeah.
Getting close.
It'd be kind of neat to have a modern keyboard in a CoCo, like maybe even have the etched keys with backlight on them and things like that on a CoCo. I mean, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, with the LED lights inside, you can change the color of your keys depending on the game. And
get
let's go Bluetooth then.
Bluetooth.
Yeah, wireless. Yeah, the CoCo 1 and 2 actually had a lot of third-party keyboards. I mean, there was the Mark Data Products Super Pro, which actually was my favorite for as far as feel. There was the PBH. There was the Keytronics. I can't remember the other name company. They had 2 of them
HDL.
where they moved the function keys. Yeah, the HDL. Like there was a good 5 or 6 of them at one point. Sorry, go ahead.
When I was developing software, I was always looking for keyboard replacements for that damn chiclet keyboard.
Yeah.
Did you pick a favorite?
My favorite usually was the model that just came out.
Oh, okay. So you switch. You had
I switched quite a bit. But
his favorite was the chiclet keyboard.
I would definitely say that my favorite at the end was basically the deluxe Color Computer / Color Computer 3 keyboard, because I was standardized and I was having to develop not only games for that, but let's see, I did Color File 2 and Color Computer Artist and a couple other application programs, and you just had to make sure that it worked for that keyboard.
Yeah, as far as the layout, the one issue I had with the CoCo 3 keyboard layout is that certain games on the CoCo 1 and 2 really played well with the left-right arrow keys and the up-down arrow keys on the opposite sides of the keyboard. And when you crammed them all in that little diamond, some of those games became impossible to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I bought the Radio Shack came out with the CoCo 3 keyboard that you could buy. It was like, $3 or $4 in a little baggie too, like the gray one.
Oh, wow.
That's what on my CoCo 2 is 3 keyboard on it.
Huh.
Yeah, and one of the third-party ones, was it HGLs or was it Keytronics actually had their one of the function keys would lock down, so you could almost use it as a caps lock key if you wanted to.
Unheard of.
You mean the CoCo would end up being in all caps at that point?
Of course, one of the biggest problems for a lot of those keyboards was key bounce.
Yep.
That's one thing, the Mark Data Professional one, I never had problems with key bounce on. That thing was awesome.
So what I did this is before the Color Computer 3 came out, is I had a little driver I put in, and it got rid of the key bounce, not by adding all these delays, but just sampling the keyboard 60 times a second via the V-blank. And that removed it.
Yeah, and one thing I did notice is that a lot of CoCo 3 programmers, I mean, we had a keyboard IRQ and FRQ on the Gimme, but almost nobody ever used it. Was it just ill-designed, do you think, or? That's well, 60 hertz. Because everybody I know did it based on the timer interrupt, and nobody used the keyboard interrupt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the key. Well, that's the thing, is the keyboard interrupt. Once you had one key down, you wouldn't see the second key.
So it had some limitations on its design. That's when you used it.
Exactly. And of course, the joystick meant when it got hit, a lot of keys couldn't be seen.
Right, because it blocked that row off on the PIA.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
When you guys start talking about that stuff, Stevie Stroh goes into like a Kmart shopper mode.
his eyes glaze.
Yeah, I actually enjoy hearing all that kind of stuff. I'm not Nick Marentes.
Wow.
Yeah. But in the early days, keyboard bouncing was a real problem.
For the Model 1 keyboard in particular was horrid.
So for anybody who doesn't know what that means, myself being the first one, what do we mean when we're describing keyboard bouncing?
Basically, when you hit a key, instead of it just responding once, it might respond as many as 20 times.
Oh, like repeated readings of the same keystroke.
And it was not fixed. It was not like you hit it, it would do it 5 times every time. It would be 3 one time and 6 the next time. And
inconsistent.
Next time.
Yeah.
Model 1s had an issue with that, and they had a board.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, see, part of the problem is the way the language was written. You would read a key, do something really, really fast with the key, and then go back and read again. Well, if that key was starting to make contact, it will literally bounce on the contact on and off. And so the software would see the key not being there and say, okay, it's not there. And then, of course, the next time the key was there, so it sends it through on the routine as a new key press. If you do something like read it every, it's 60 times a second, sounds a little fast. When it comes to making and breaking these contacts, is actually kind of slow. So if you're just reading the status of the keys once every 60th of a second, you get rid of the bounce. Where the routine was designed that since it's waiting for the next key to come in when you're typing the stuff in, it could literally see the key thousands of times a second.
Is this because of the blazing speed of our processor?
I remember on the Model 1, you would type something like you'd try to type load, and you'd have to hit the key so quick and let go so it wouldn't bounce. Yeah. Otherwise, you'd hit L and you get 3 L's and then 2 O's and then 1 A and then 4 D's.
Yeah, the Model 1 TRS-80 computer had no keyboard debounce, and one of the patches they made to the ROM later was to put bounce in. They put some bounce in on the CoCo, but it wasn't enough as the machine got older. Worked great on the brand new machines they were testing on.
Yeah.
See what you guys don't have to deal with anymore?
This is a problem with other stuff too. Actually, where I work, we've had some embedded systems where we'd have key bounce. And we had to have our programmer work around it, quite literally, writing timing routines and doing multiple samples. And
as this electronics gets older on color computer 1, 2, 3, what do we have to worry about? Like the capacitors breaking down, or because the logic is pretty good, right?
I would say that capacitors were made back in those days. I would replace them by now. I wouldn't trust a capacitor that's over 20 years old.
That's the electrolytics dry out. Yeah, the electrolytics dry out. So.
Yeah.
Are they usually on the power supply?
I was just wondering if that's what isn't that what John Lennon said? Don't trust any capacitor over 30 or something?
No, that was Jim Brain.
I would say power supply is the main area. There's a few other smaller electrolytics. I would see about replacing them too.
But the ones that are shaped like a flying saucer, they're
the disc capacitors should last 50, 100 years.
Oh, gee.
The electrolytics, if they start to bulge, especially at the top, then you know you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it here first. Bulging capacitors are a problem, folks.
Well, that's the thing is when you turn on the computer, those capacitors are at zero charge, and then all of a sudden you get this electricity just sucking right in them. That heats up and degrades the electrolytic. So every time you turn on the computer, you're cutting some of the life out of that capacitor.
I got a question about these bombs that they're supposed to set off that cause everything to not work anymore. What exactly?
EMF?
How does that work?
Electromagnetic pulse?
Yeah, how does that work? How does it render them useless?
Have we just gone into military talk?
Does it
I don't
fry
know.
a chip?
It fries the chips because it puts on greater voltage than what they're able to expect. The circuit paths on the circuit board work as they pick up the magnetic wave, and that converts into electricity and blows it out. Now, the color computer would probably survive better than your PC.
Do they have on?
Do they have to be on for the pulse to do its damage? So if the computer's turned off, will it still do it?
No. It's just that if it's on, it's going to disrupt itself very quickly. But if it's off, it's still going to get damaged.
Wow.
So, Ron,
Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Did he just have an EMP?
I saw the screens flicker behind him there. So
that was not me. Sorry.
Well, the pulse made its way through. The pulse made its way through Skype.
Hello, my name is Grant Leighty, and you're listening to the CoCoTALK with your host Stevie Stroh.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's original gamer Stevie Stroh. You know, gameplay. To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness color computer gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the original gamer Stevie Stroh. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness color computer gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the original gamer Stevie Stroh sent you.
Okay, Steve, you're going to have to filter that one out.
Oh, this is great radio right here.
We can smell that up here in Canada.
It's a beauty, eh?
Seriously, with all that methane that's now in the garage, you really need some sort of fire system in there just to keep the place from burning down. Because one small spark, it's all gone.
Blow the doors off the place.
Yeah. So, Grant, have you got your eBay shopping list ready?
Yes, and I need your credit card now, please.
You've been pre-declined. So there's a lot of original hardware, both hard to find and rare and unique, and your unicorns out there. But what about new hardware? If somebody has a CoCo now, what is the must-have or the must-wants on things to
CoCo SDC.
CoCo SDC,
yes.
without saying, right?
Yeah.
And that's whether you have a CoCo 1, 2, 3,
or Dragon.
Second, CoCo Flash.
CoCo Flash, okay.
You know what? We should have some kind of a place to be able to dump your image of your SD card. So unfortunate people or fortunate people can pick up on it and try different versions that might have somebody might have more games, more graphics, whatever. I'd be willing to put mine up.
It sounds like we got a person here that's willing to pay for a server for that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's only 2 gigabytes at a time, right?
It can add up.
I'm wrong, but I do believe I do believe the CoCo archive is on the SDC. I saw on Facebook.
Yeah, Guillaume's got most of it, but it's still not 100% complete.
Even the one he released a couple days ago.
Yeah, I haven't actually checked out that one, but
You talking about the CoCo SDC Explorer, the update to that? Because I'm wanting to get that thing going on mine too.
Yeah, but he also included the archive.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay, so he's got an SDC image.
And it's also in the format, too, for the SDC, so you don't have to rename it all.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
No, I didn't know that. I'll have to take a look at that, too.
I downloaded one from there, and when I put it on my card, a lot of the drives are empty. Usually the one you really want to try is empty. Naturally.
Interesting.
But he says, not all. He hasn't gone through every one, but.
So the CoCo SDC, the CoCo Flash, or
I guess DriveWire to an extent as well, because it's basically just a cable, and then you have your Mac or your CoCo or whatever. So that's another alternative that lets you get access to a lot of stuff.
So back up for a second. Why would we need a CoCo Flash though if you have the SDC?
Because the CoCo Flash is for the ROM cartridges, where the SDC's for the floppy disks
and hard drives.
But it also has the flash memory for the ROMs that you can actually put cartridges in there.
Well, the SDC only has 8 slots?
8 slots.
Yeah, 8 slots. That's it.
Where the CoCo Flash has what? What is it?
Enough for the entire ROM pack.
I think it's 32.
8 meg.
It's 1,000. It's 1,000 slots. 8K slots.
And it's compatible with the
bank switching.
Switching stuff like RoboCop and stuff.
RoboCop and whatnot. Yep.
So if you wanted a ROM experience, so it sounds like the CoCo Flash is the CoCo SDC for ROM images.
Yeah, basically.
I would like to see somebody run the Radio Shack demo and use the SDC and switch to the other disc. I've never been able to do it myself.
People just have to hit the button as long as it's named properly.
Yeah. Well, in the image I got, it's named and it doesn't do anything.
Well, see, you have to mount the directory, not the actual disk image.
Yeah, when you've got more than one floppy disk, you don't mount the individual disk, you mount the entire folder they're in, and then it allows you to switch through them sequentially with a tap of a button.
Okay.
So you just are you using SDC Explorer, or are you doing it from the command prompt?
Yes, both.
Okay. So on
SDC Explorer won't
on
do it.
SDC Explorer, you can do Shift M to mount the folder.
Okay.
And then once you do that, then it will show up the list of files on the first disk image in that folder, and then you can select whatever it is that you need to select to start the executable.
All right.
I'll try it.
And then from SDC DOS, you just say drive 0 equals comma, and then you just type in the name of the directory those disks are in, and not the disk image. Michael Brant in the chat's also saying the Dragon MMC for the CoCo 1.2 or Dragon by Phil Harvey Smith, a new hardware device. That's like a CoCo SDC for the Dragon, but it has some other unique things where it's not more about disk images, it's more about cassette images and ROM images and things like that too, right?
And the best thing I like about it has a save state thing, so you can take any program or game that you're playing and you can tell it just to save the state, pick it up, a week later, and it's like a save game feature.
It kind of adds an emulator feature to real hardware now.
Yeah, that could be kind of handy.
Yeah, especially for what is it? Forest of Doom.
Forest of Doom. Yeah.
Ease of use.
If you have a Dragon, you could also get, the NX32 card or the Moo card, I think is what it's called, right? The MOOH card.
Yep.
I'm not familiar with those. I'm not familiar with
I'm not either.
Things.
You were familiar with the Moo card. We talked about it on CoCoTALK 4 or 5 weeks ago.
You expect him to remember everything gets talked on this show?
Oh, the tormod.me thing, huh?
Yep. Tormod.
Okay.
I put the SDC on my Dragon, and it came up after I figured out what things to select for the dip switch, and then I didn't know what to do with it. I tried DIR, nothing. So I just sat there going, well, here it is, ready to go. But then the other thing is, what software do you have to have a different partition on
the disk images are different, so you need to
the
download
disk
Dragon
images are
disks.
radically different.
Yeah, so I should have a separate SD card for that, and then I guess it's SDIR to do a directory.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, which I learned later.
Okay.
Isn't that like in the manual?
Oh, there's a new manual, right? There's a new manual for the CoCo SDC.
Yeah.
RTFM, right? Read the fine manual.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest with all this stuff is, you guys, the firmware correction that has to be done on you is to read the frickin' manual.
Yeah, Steve.
Steve's the poster child for that. Yeah. Steve Stroh, I should say.
Yeah, Mr. OG.
Mr. OG.
You have to read those manuals, sir.
Yeah, OG is in, oh God, I have to read the manual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Words.
As a software developer, I create manuals. I expect you to read them.
Well, don't expect this OG to do it.
You expect too much, fine sir.
Read the effing manual.
So how can I get more memory in my CoCo like Curtis has?
What is Curtis?
Talk to Jim in a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cloud9 offers a 512K triad, what they call triad board. That's a big seller. I know a lot of people have got that. Sometimes on eBay you can find the original 512K board, from back when the Tandy was still producing the CoCo. So, and there was a couple other manufacturers that made them as well.
Yeah, but I think the triad's a lot better because it uses less power.
Oh, it does.
That's a lot cooler.
Cooler chips.
No,
Plus, it's
no
got that
doubt
cool
about
triangular shape. So
it does. It's very appropriately named.
So is the board that Curtis has no longer available for the 2 meg?
8 meg.
8 meg. Oh, wow.
No can is no longer available.
No can do.
No can do.
Might find one on eBay, I'd guess. But oh man, I'm not even sure if you have an opportunity to get that board.
There's only about a dozen
made.
Okay, what are you holding up there, Ron?
It's a 512K board, but it doesn't have any brand name on it, or does it? It says Disto Canada.
Disto.
That's a Disto one.
Oh shoot, we're in trouble now.
Why?
Nice.
Why?
It's another Canadian product.
Oh.
From back in the day.
Well, Disto also made the 1 meg and 2 meg upgrades back in the day too.
Is it still kind of sticky from the maple sap?
Oh.
Oh, come on, no.
Yes.
No. I thought the manual was a little longer because it got all these in them. And,
They put an
And you have to
extra
print French on the other side too. So.
They got to put an extra U in
That doubles the
color.
Yeah, all the
Roar.
extra
Neon.
U's. Color.
Color. What color is your computer?
Neighbor.
Z.
It has one of those.
Hold it up higher, Ron. Hold it up higher.
It has one of those. What do you call it? Capacitors on there. See the
electrolytic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Flux.
A flux capacitor?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
I got your flux.
Go flux yourself, David.
But seriously, buying the triad, it's going to have modern capacitors on it, so you don't have to spend the time replacing them.
Right.
That is very true. And the fact that it runs much cooler and smaller. It's a smaller board, so it has more pull inside.
It would be really neat if somebody could come up with a CoCo memory solution that maybe gave us more than 512K.
Oh, yeah. I know. And
We
who would
should get right on that.
And here's a crazy idea. How about non-invasive and to a degree?
Solderless.
Solderless. Yeah.
And speaking of that, we need serial ports and an SD card reader on it too.
And don't forget the blinking lights.
That's right.
Lots of
And
blinking
sound.
lights.
Holder. Don't forget.
The best thing, guys, non-volatile memory, so you can turn it off and come right back to it.
Nice.
I want to keep my coffee warm too.
That's right.
Michael Brant says feature creep.
Feature creep, yeah, and a fidget spinner on the side too. So,
The original Disto 2 meg upgrade because you had to stack boards and add a DAT board. Yet, generally enough, you could keep your coffee warm. Your CoCo would crack. It warm.
Well, we had to add a fan.
Yeah, that was just for the 1 meg.
So obviously they're intimating that there are some new memory products that are probably going to be on the market in the next year. So,
A
I
year?
know. No, I said in the next year, right?
Yeah,
it probably won't happen before the end of the year.
Yeah, we're already in November, so 2018 is right around the corner.
It is right around the corner. But I think there is a lot. I think there's a significant demand for greater than 512K that's non-invasive, that's not solder required or whatnot. So
plug and play.
Plug
and play.
That's right. Plug and play. So I'm,
Ease of use.
That's right. But as far as that's what the future holds. Triad's probably your best bet for right now if you want some memory to tide you over. But the goal is to bring 8 meg of RAM to the CoCo 3, and then 8 meg of RAM to the CoCo 1 and 2 as well.
Wow.
Yep.
So will that come with a chip puller? Because wouldn't you have to pop the gimme and put it back in?
Yep, it'll come with a chip puller because you will have to pop out the gimme. Yep.
Because I'd hate to try and do that with a screwdriver.
No, and you'll break the socket if you did. Nobody wants to do that. So
yeah.
So,
right over the job.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scotty.
I just got mine not too long ago. Yeah.
I recommend the PLCC puller, but I've done it with a screwdriver. But
I've done it with a screwdriver too.
Here,
it's not impossible, but you have to be
I'm gonna go big screen here real quick and show you the one I got. Tell me if this is the right one. So it's this guy. It's this guy right here.
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
That's it. And I was able to get into the corners and get them out.
Yep.
Yep.
Right
My doctor's got one of those. I don't know.
Yeah. And then this is your normal IC puller here.
Maybe he was minor
like
was
a
in
CPU.
Computer engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Does anybody remember or heard of a guy named Larry Greenfield?
Yep. Used to be on the FidoNet list.
Right. Is he still alive or into CoCo at all or anything?
Not a clue. I haven't
heard from him for a long time.
So RAM upgrades are on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Retro Innovations will be bringing us several exciting products, hopefully in 2018.
Yep.
Go for
Indeed.
retro.com.
That's right.
GO4 retro.com.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about various sound options for the CoCo. I assume you should talk about those. I don't know that those are real product. I don't know that there's anything that. Well, I guess there's a couple things that utilize
Ed's
them.
board's out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There. Well, John's is too. I was thinking there might not be some software that does it, but Ed's got some software and John's got software. So yeah, there's some software for each one of them.
And Glenn Hewlett has got a MIDI converter that will convert to 3 different formats. So you can take a MIDI file, he can convert it to play on CoCo DAC hardware. He can convert it to play on Ed Snyder's what's it called? What's Ed's called? SGM sound generation module.
PSG.
PSG, programmable sound generator. Okay, and then it's the Super Game module is John Linville's, right?
Game Master.
Okay, I can't keep up with this crap. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Game Master. Yes. Okay. So the SGM is actually the ColecoVision enhancement that also adds sound. There's just too many third-party add-ons. So Glenn Hewlett has this audio tool, and Simon Jonason has also mentioned that he has one too that takes a certain format and will convert it to play on these different devices. So it seems like sound is on the horizon. I remember we mentioned this, when we first started CoCoTALK, the talk of sound hardware was coming up because even John Strong was talking about putting some sound hardware in his own cartridges too, or creating a sound device. And Alan Huffman was helping him prototype some type of sound device that would work over serial ports. And the phrase fragmentation came up early on before these products were ever finalized or produced, and now we're kind of seeing some of those growing pains, I think.
Well, you put out what you can, you figure out what's the best, and everybody standardizes around it.
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much.
Or
and
not.
You might have to have a bit of a shakeout for a little bit too. I mean, that's happened in other computer companies too.
It's. I mean, if you think back to the days of the PC, if you had a PC game, like DOS PC games, they supported AdLib and Sound Blaster and the Gravis Ultrasound and the Disney Sound Source and the Roland MPU 401.
1-bit PC speaker.
So, but there was a bigger market. More people were buying the stuff, and so the developers were happier to invest the time to support these options. When we're looking at selling maybe 100 units of a software title, in this current market, how much time and energy do you want to supporting multiple solutions?
Well, that's where I'm hoping, like Simon and some of the others that are doing some of the software stuff, if they can come up with some standardized software that can generate for all of them.
Yeah,
on sound source, maybe it's not that big of an issue.
Well, and if the RAM thing becomes a more accessible, and you have things like a RAM disk and more RAM, then maybe OS 9 becomes a more compelling choice for game systems, because now if you have a driver and you've got this abstraction layer between the hardware, and you can just send sound data to the sound driver and you standardize that protocol, that might work too.
Yeah, Nick was here. He'd have something to say about that.
What?
Have you guys ever talked about YA DOS?
YADOS?
Yeah, have you seen it?
I've heard about it. I'm not familiar with it myself.
It's supposed to be RG,
HDB DOS compatible.
Yeah, it's a derivative.
That's Brett's, isn't it? Or Gordon's?
Yes.
It's Brett Gordon's, yeah.
Okay.
Is it good? Is it something to look at, or?
I haven't used it myself yet.
The only reason why it's even on my radar is because I saw it on the CoCo Pi option recently. I was trying to use my CoCo Pi, and I think there was a YADOS option to boot up into, but I'm not familiar with it, and I've never used it.
Is that something you would burn a ROM or EEPROM with?
Yeah, I think you flash it. I think it's a 16K DOS too. Like it's got some extensions, but I'm not that familiar with it either. It's got more than HDB DOS does.
Okay.
From what I understand.
Or there's the Canadian one. ADOS? EH?
ADOS. Is it DOS A? DOS A? It's Beauty DOS.
and the French equivalent à la DOS?
La DOS. Le DOS.
GWN DOS.
So all the words with OR in them are OUR? Is that how that works?
Color DOS.
Well, not the word or. The word or stays the same.
Right,
but that always becomes our. That would be silly.
Right.
What other new hardware does anybody have on their want list or wish list? Or if we're just wishing for new hardware that doesn't exist right now, what would you guys like to see?
VR.
Hey, did you see the you guys, somebody should do that for CoCo Fest next year. There was a guy at the Chicago vintage computer. Well, no, it was a Commodore. He used a pair of goggles. It wasn't anything special. Anybody could do it. I mean, it just takes some programming. He took a pair of those VR goggles, the cheap pair of VR goggles, and he put the
ones that shutter the two lenses?
No. This was like one of those that you can put it's like a pair of goggles, but you can put your cell phone in it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Google Glass style.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Well, anyway, he took a LCD screen off of eBay, and he put it where the phone normally goes, and like an NTSC screen or whatnot.
Okay.
And then he hooked that to the Commodore, and he wrote the graphic, and he figured out that if you split the screen in half. So like on a CoCo, you'd split the screen and have the left half be the left eye and the right half be the right eye.
Yeah.
And then by changing the positions of the two pictures relative to the middle of that half of the screen, you could make things look like they were closer to you or farther away. And
I did that 25 years ago with the Sega Genesis. They were coming out with their own VR unit, and I wrote a game called Iron Hammer that did exactly that. It alternated back and forth, so you had 30 frames per second from a 60 frame per second graphics processor, and it would shift the image so you got your stereoscopic vision. And what happened is Sega got cold feet. They were worried about getting sued because Johnny might be wearing this, walk out of the house, and get hit by a car.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so you're talking about something that is a very, very simple graphic system being able to do VR even way back then. And yeah, you could probably do something like that with the color computer. Now, I did strictly software version using red and blue lens glasses, Warp Fighter 3D. So, doing 3D is not hard. Of course, the thing that you need to go beyond with the VR is you need some sort of head tracking.
Yeah, so when you're changing your view and angle and stuff.
Exactly.
Accelerometers.
Yep.
They have some that dump out an analog variance signal.
Yeah, but once in a while, those accelerometers can drift.
Oh, yeah.
Just to tape the old black joystick like under your chin.
There you go.
That'll give you the range of motion you need.
Now you might have to add a high-res joystick interface to get real proper tracking. So
that's high precision.
Just make a chin strap to go along with the goggles. Goggles / chin
and
strap.
And propeller on top, and you're good to go.
It would not be hard for me to put a system together like that for Warp Fighter 3D with the dual lens system.
Yeah, except the one I fiddled with a little bit was one that had you could shut the lenses off, basically a shutter on each eye that you could just shut it off and on as you went.
LCD, you blank and unblank.
LCD is too slow. It gets expensive if you are looking at the LCD shutters that can go fast enough. That was one of the reasons why typically doing that technology works great when you're looking at a monitor. It's better to have two LCD displays, one for each eye, and generate separate images.
Right.
And that worked pretty well for Sega, but they got cold feet. Of course, another thing that came out that was terribly bad was VR Game Boy.
Oh, yeah. That kind of set VR back 30 years.
Oh, yeah. That was, nobody wanted to talk VR until the current generation.
Yeah.
Hello, I am David Ladd, and you are watching CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live CoCo podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer Stevie Stroh here, and when you are done with CoCoTALK, why not head on over to my YouTube channel and get your share of gameplay goodness. There you will find everything from the old school to the next gen. There are video game reviews, interviews, how-tos, and replays of CoCoTALK. So for all of your video game needs on YouTube, head on over to youtube.com/OG Stevie Stroh for your share of gameplay goodness today.
Interesting. So we have the CoCo SDC, we've got the CoCo Flash, we have a current memory solution, Cloud9's Triad board, we have new memory products from Retro Innovations around the corner. We
do need a CoCo 3 VJ solution again, though. I mean, I don't know if Mark's manufacturing a Spectra board again, or somebody else is going to come up with something, but we do need something.
Well, it seems like the way to go now, to me, that makes the most sense, is to get Richard Lorbieski's RGB to SCART cable and just go to HDMI, because that's over the counter solution at this point, and it's probably less money than buying the VGA adapter, because that was $100 investment there.
Right.
Has anybody seen the AI woman on Facebook?
AI woman.
Woman. Yeah.
Are you talking about the artificial intelligence?
Yeah. Have you seen her?
No.
No?
Nobody wants to admit it.
No. Is this a video, or is this like an app?
It's a woman with a rubber face, and she blinks and talks, and she's kind of spunky, I guess. And
no.
Is that the one from Asia?
No, I don't think so.
Is this David's girlfriend?
No, because if she's got any form of intelligence, she would know better.
Well, if we get that 8 gigabyte upgrade for the
gigabytes now, huh? We went from 8 megs to 8 gigs, huh? Just like that. Jim Bray, what are you waiting on? DDR4.
Yeah. But the artificial women or artificial characters, something like that I see from Japan, they just look creepy because they're the uncanny valley, because they don't understand the human mind was designed to recognize a face.
Mm-hmm.
That's built in. That is actually hardware that you have in your brain to instantly recognize a face. And you get it slightly off, and this is what we find out over at Imagineering and Disney. You're slightly off, and people go, ooh, that just looks weird.
Yeah, it just creeps you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much easier to make an animatronic dog than it is a person.
Right. There's that threshold you can't cross. You can get close to realistic, and you can be kind of sensationalized in certain areas. Exaggerated, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. So you can be close to realistic or exaggerated, but the minute you cross that line where you're realistic but not realistic enough, your brain is automatically turned off by it.
That's the reason why that is why in Westworld they use real actors and not robots.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, CoCo 1 days, wasn't there a program that you could talk to it?
That was Eliza,
and it would learn.
Yes, that was Eliza. It was like talking to a psychiatrist. It would ask you one or two word things that would get to learn you.
Come, elucidate yourself.
Elucidate your thoughts.
Yes,
Elucidate your thoughts. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, and that was on a couple of different platforms, right? So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Now that would be an interesting app now, where if you combine that with something like Siri technology, where you could talk to it and it talks back to you.
Well, they do have that to a limited extent. I mean, that's what they've been kind of slowly building up on both on the Google side, the Microsoft side. Like, they're all doing that right now. It's part of the whole AI push.
Yeah.
Back at Google, they always have competitions who can make the most realistic artificial intelligence character that you can have a conversation with.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they have the Turing test, where basically if you don't know you're talking to a non-human by the end of the conversation, then they figure you've crossed that uncanny valley.
Yeah, interesting.
There was people in CompuServe like that.
Yeah. Well, I wrote
it's
a basic...
like David's voice when he does his creepy voice. That's uncanny valley. It doesn't sound human. So.
Oh, like Curtis.
See, the shivers are going down my spine right now because it just doesn't sound human.
The uncanny valley there.
Yes.
So, what other new hardware are we excited for?
Well, is Ed still working on a gimme replacement? I haven't heard too much on that project lately. Didn't know what's happening there.
He's got a couple things. I can't tell you whether he is or isn't, but I can tell you that, I mean, should be fair. He's got the gimme replacement that he had announced. He's got that 16 meg kind of RAM cartridge thing that he did a prototype of. I don't know where it is either. And then I know at the Chicago Vintage Computer Festival, a lot of people were interested, and at Tandy Assembly, a lot of people were interested in Peter Bartlett's VGA cartridge.
Yeah.
So
that's another non-invasive solderless solution.
So there's those things, and I don't know. Ed's got two things. Ed's got the CoCo PSG. We talked about it earlier, and then I think he has doesn't he have a CoCo DAC or something? Isn't there something called a CoCo DAC that he has?
That's like that is replacing the Orchestra 90, yeah.
Yeah, so it's got like a whole bunch of different features. I don't know if those are in production either, but if we want to make sure we cover all the bases, there's all that stuff too.
Right. And then, so speaking of crossing the uncanny valley, at some point in time, we just get to the point where we need to buy something like Roger Taylor's new CoCo solution. That's just all new hardware that's compatible, right, Bill Noble?
Yep.
Roger's doing his new DE10 baseboard, which now I think instead of having all these little satellite boards, everything's on the main board except the joysticks. Am I understanding that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Michael Brant was asking if David Ladd was a replicant.
That's implying intelligence, though, isn't it?
Yeah, right. He's a smart guy.
Oh yeah, he's a
roll back
renowned
his
star.
eye and check for the serial numbers.
Has anybody thought about making?
That's why he wears the glasses.
Has anybody thought about making a new joystick?
Well, John Linville made kind of a 3D print of one. Well,
yeah, that would be neat. John Strong has made some too. He's shown some prototypes where he has like a joystick made of arcade parts, where it's got like the actual arcade buttons on it, and it's it's kind of like a super arcade version of a deluxe joystick, where it's still got the spring loaded but still analog, and it's got 2 like arcade quality buttons on it. And he brought that to CoCo Fest this year, and it looked really neat. But I don't know if he's prepared to produce quantities of those.
Yeah, and then David Ladd, he's working on his adapter for some joysticks from other platforms type thing, and there's also Neil, I think, is doing one too.
Yeah.
He's making.
Yeah, I've got Neil's.
Have you guys seen the Atari? It's a joystick, and it has all the games in it, and you just plug it in and
the plug and play solutions. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think anybody would ever come out with a CoCo one like that?
Yeah, when you can figure out how you could do that legally and sell it with all the ROMs and Microsoft content in there, once you can cross that valley, then you can put the CoCo in anything.
Yeah, it's legal issues I think hold that up the most. Technologically, yes, you could, no problem at all.
Yeah. Would that have a 6809 in it?
It would be an ASIC. All those they either do one of two things. They either have people created the entire computer in an FPGA like Roger Taylor or Gary Becker, and they mass produce it as a application specific integrated circuit, and they just put it all in there. Or a lot of those units that you see nowadays there was not back in the day, but you can buy in China, you can buy these things called an NES on a chip, a Nintendo Entertainment System on a chip. And so what they'll do is they'll hire people to basically port whatever games that were for that platform. They'll port them to the NES platform, and then they'll put that chip and the ROMs on that little board, and they'll call it a CoCo, but it's not really. It's an NES that's masquerading as a color computer or whatever. So that's what they've done. Like a lot of them. I don't know, probably a half dozen years ago, there was like a Namco Pac-Man joystick. It had Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, but it wasn't really Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man. It was NES on a chip with somebody who'd ported Pac-Man, the arcade game. They ported it to the NES. It wasn't the NES version. It was somebody had rewritten it so that it looked as close as they could get it, but it wasn't the same game.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Actually, a decade ago, Jeri Ellsworth, who was a Commodore,
oh yeah,
she basically built an entire Commodore 64 on a chip with the games and the little cartridge thing, and it actually you could rig it up with a keyboard, and you can actually get the basic prompt and everything.
Yep. Well, and Curt Vendel you're talking about the Atari, so the Flashback, the Atari Flashback 2. Now the 1 was NES on a chip, but the Atari Flashback 2 and I think the 3 were just like you described. There were little pads on the printed circuit board. You could solder little wires to the pads, and you could have yourself a cartridge port, and you could plug your own game into that. So it functioned as a complete 2600, but it was on a chip. And Jeri did the Commodore 64 on a chip as well. That's how I got to know a little bit about him, is because at the time Jeri was quite active in the Commodore community, and so she was always talking about how all that came to be. They approached her and said, "Hey, we want to make this game and a joystick, and we want to we want to sell 1 million of them, or however many hundreds of thousands of them we want, and here's what we're gonna do, and here's how cheap we're gonna make it, and here's how we got to cost reduce it so we can get it on shelves by Christmas time."
Well, she went one step farther than what they spec, where you can tap into it and effectively make it into a Commodore 64. And they got pissed at her for doing that.
Yeah, well, that was always her intent.
Yep.
I mean, I think I don't know that they got really mad at her doing that. What they got kind of upset about is the fact that she, from what I remember anyway, because I was talking to her while she was trying to finish it up, is they were trying to get the final, hardware description language code so that they could create that ASIC, because that's what they were going to do. They were going to fabricate this ASIC from that language or whatever, right? But she kept wanting to put more stuff in them. I mean, there's so many other additional features into that thing. It had a blitter, and it had extra graphic stuff and extra colors, and it had all these kind of cool features. And she was wanting to keep putting some more of those features in before they locked down the design, but it was causing the project to be a little late. And I think that was what was really
she did admit to that one too, but the legal department was getting a little concerned that people could turn these things into Commodore 64s.
Oh, well.
And kind of creech on somebody else's legal rights to that.
I don't know. That's kind of. I'm not sure how. I'm glad, I guess, that they were upset about it, but she was really excited about the fact that she could put all that in there. So the same thing could be done with the CoCo. I think the key there is it wasn't so much that Jeri did it; it was that there was a company that came by and said, "Hey, we want to take this and we want to make, 1 million of these units or however many they made, and we want to sell them for $19.95, and we want to have them at QVC by Thanksgiving or whatever it was."
All right.
Interesting.
So I think, Ron, that would be the requirement. We'd have to find somebody that wanted to make 1 million of them, or a good chunk of them.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like we're going down the road of what hardware would we like to see on the CoCo. That might be a good direction to go in.
Yeah.
Probably some kind of thing you can plug in the side and print to would be cool on your new printer. Besides drive wires ability.
Print server. Dedicated print server.
Yeah, modern I/O board would be kind of cool, where you've got USB ports, SD cards, maybe Ethernet, maybe Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, things like that. I mean, all that crap could be put on one board, on one cartridge.
Yeah, the only problem is most modern USB printers require the smarts of the PC to actually do the printing. It's not like you're sending it ASCII characters.
No, you have to draw everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I would even do that. I think USB printers, aren't those kind of like, does anybody have a printer directly hooked up via USB? Don't you all have wireless printers now? Yeah.
So mine's wireless.
Yeah, I have a laser printer that still supports the PCL language, so.
But if you had a couple of USB ports where you could plug in a USB keyboard and mouse through a non-invasive add-on I/O cartridge, that'd be kind of cool.
Well, so it's probably fair to be complete. So Cloud9, I believe. I don't know if they're still selling the keyboard. PS2 keyboard adapter that they used to have or not, but they used to have something like that. I don't know if it's still available or not.
I think it is.
Okay.
And most keyboards can use an adapter that goes from USB to PS2.
Yeah. Although I do agree, a USB, PS2's days have come and gone, so USB would be a new USB mouse and a USB keyboard adapter would be of great benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Bluetooth, you could do Bluetooth, I guess.
Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, that'd be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the keyboard adapter having basically two modes to operate in. Its native mode, it's emulating the keys being pressed through the ribbon connector, and an OS9 mode where you're actually talking to it directly to get the key that's coming out of it.
Yeah, like Bill and I did with the AT keyboard for the TC9.
Right.
All right, do we want to take a look at Ron's revised Rainbow magazine? Why don't we do that?
That sounds good.
We'll flip through it real quick. But yeah, this is still a work in progress, and this is something that will hopefully inspire more people to want to maybe, get involved, because Ron can't do this all himself, but he definitely kind of got the ball rolling. How do I zoom in on this when it's in the browser? I don't know. All right, but we're looking at it here. We're looking at
Control Plus.
Okay. Yeah, the mouse wheel does that too. Okay, right. Okay, so we unveiled this, I think it was episode 30, when we talked about the Rainbow Revival, and and we beat that horse a little bit. But Ron kind of started this. I think his first draft was something like 22, 24 pages. We're now up to more pages. And so this is kind of a revised version of that, which looks pretty good. And I definitely applaud all these efforts and this enthusiasm here. I love the print number -2 as the kind of opening little column here. Very cool stuff. Remembering the CoCo cat, the iron-on transfer picture, that's very cool. I don't know who the hell that whack job is there. We'll keep moving. We'll keep moving. We'll keep moving. Here we go. Some pictures of Tandy Assembly here. Very cool. That's one of our most recent events, so it's nice to have some current topical coverage here. That's the VGA board that we see here. The VGA board attached to a Y cable off of the CoCo. And there's the VGA monitor running. That's the VGA solution that we were talking about tonight. Rick Adams, okay, the assembled people who spoke. Multi-pack interface. So this is a cool little section here talking about the different models of the multi-pack and the different colors they came in. Talking about having to need to update a multi-pack to work on a CoCo 3. Here's the silver model. Here's the white model. Here's the newer model here. That was kind of the CoCo 3 version of it. Good stuff there. Multi-pack. Then we get into the CoCo SDC, super duper computer. Nice little article there. Designed by Darren Atkinson. It says it replaces thousands of floppies. Come get your software and more new hardware. The Dragon MMC has been released, so there's a little bit of a write-up on that. An ad, full-page ad for the CoCo Crew podcast. Full-page ad for Roger Taylor's CoCo TV on Roku. Yep. Which I'm looking forward to seeing one day. I'm a CoCoNut.com. Little shameful plug there. And from our own Mark Overholser, the CoCo PSG review, talking about the programmable sound generator. Nice photographs there, nice pictures of the product. Very good stuff. OS 9 and its newer, bigger brother, Nitrous 9, are on Facebook, right? So we've got an OS 9 Facebook group. We've got a color computer Facebook group. A little picture here saying that Nitrous 9 takes advantage of the Hitachi. Who can upgrade my CoCo? Well, remember, we have Cloud9. We also have Richard. Who else does Cloud9? So Jim Brain does. Richard Lorbieski could do it, although I don't know if he's selling the actual upgrades. This was a cool little vision that Ron Delvaux came up here with as a pull-up screen for the CoCo 3, right? Film display pulls out of the new second generation Tandy Color Computer 3, right? That's pretty cool if you think about it. Just turn your CoCo into a laptop. We really need a CoCo laptop, honestly. All right, so an interview with Sockmaster. Now, was this a new interview, or is this maybe something that happened in the past that Eddie Serbinsky did?
Eddie did it recently.
Oh, recently. So this is actually new. Okay.
Yep.
So I actually need to read that whole thing again. I know we've spoken to him recently, and we've probably heard some of this, but I always find I get something a little bit more by reading another one. Yeah, so nice little multi-page interview here with John Kowalski, the Sockmaster.
I'm going to work on making those into columns so they don't take so much space.
Pictures of new games, from Bomb Threat to some of the cartridges from last year to Flood It from this year and Forest of Doom from this year. Yeah, so new games. So this is missing
Timberman to that list now too.
Timberman and Popstar Pilot.
Yep.
Full page ad of Forest of Doom. Man, you must be raking in the dough from all these advertisement spots you got here, Ron. What does it say? What does it say? Retard? Oh no, retro ad.
Thanks, Nick.
Retro ad for OS 9. Canned software for my Tandy Color computer. Dynacalc, Profile, TS Edit. I like the retro ads, honestly. I think these look really cool. The HJ.
There's that number jack we're talking about, too.
There's that keypad, huh?
Yep.
That's a beauty, eh?
Made in Rochester, New York, where I used to live.
New York. Retro ad. Heat up your CoCo with hard drives. A 5 megabyte hard drive for $500. That is such a deal. From J&M Systems, huh? Yeah, that looks good, Ron. I like that you've you got something started, because if nothing else, we can sit here and try to decide by committee what we should do, but if somebody actually starts something, it's commendable, the effort and the enthusiasm. So
I work on it pretty much every day and add things, and I guess Forest of Doom will be sending, the Forest of Doom headquarters will be sending me some text and pictures that I can put up.
Well, to make sure the check clears too before you actually do update the copy. So.
And remember, the Canadian funds, it's only going to be worth like 70 cents on the dollar. So.
He said something about direct deposit. So.
Well, the other thing you got to remember is with the way shipping is going these days, it might not show up for a couple of decades. So.
Yeah. Right.
Well, we're thinking maybe to print something out by the CoCo Fest.
Oh, that would be neat. That would definitely be neat. Very, very cool. All right, I think we've talked about enough hardware for one night. What else? Anything else you want to? Can we plug the fact that we might be having an interview with a famous celebrity in the near future, or should that be? Well, we actually have already kind of. That's not a secret at this point. So, Bruce Moore,
David Ladd.
I thought they already had interviews.
It's kind of redundant, isn't it? Famous celebrity?
Oh, there's infamous celebrity too.
Infamous celebrities.
Well,
yes.
there is that. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't booked a Kardashian yet, so.
Yeah.
Well, David's pretty close.
Did Steve Bjork ever program in OS 9, or was it always?
Well, just ask him. He's right here.
Speak up.
Well, my first OS 9 program that I did officially for Tandy was the infamous bouncing ball, to prove that you could do high-speed graphics even under OS 9.
Oh.
Okay, don't tell Nick.
Yep. And that was OS 9 model, the first version designed for the CoCo 1.2. Later, I did Color Computer Artist. And boy, there's another one that I did under OS 9 now escapes me. And of course, then there was an ill-fated game that never came out that was under OS 9.
See, that's where the infamous part comes in.
Yeah,
a game which should never be mentioned.
Yeah,
and that's the Voldemort of software, huh?
Yeah.
At least on Tandy.
I try and keep some sort of bibliography or list of games and products I've written over the years. I'm going to have to go back and review it because I do seem to remember there was one other OS 9 project I did for Tandy. I mean, almost everything else was done either in my own version of a DOS or cartridge.
Was it Phantom Graph?
Do you have anything written up that you'd want to put in Rainbow Magazine sometime?
Nope.
Maybe I should send Eddie to call you on the phone and interview you. And
Eddie Serbinsky.
Yeah.
Steve, was it Phantomograph? Did you do that one?
No, I did Color Computer Artist.
Okay. I was just trying to remember what the second program was, and
yeah,
for some reason I thought that was stuck in my head.
Yeah, well, I think it was a database of some sort. See, I did Color File 2, which was a cartridge, and then I think Tandy wanted a OS 9 version of it.
Ah.
I got to look it up.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah, well, the interview we're talking about, though, for those who don't know or who might be listening later, is, we are in the month of November, and we are hoping to have a Steve Bjork interview sometime this month, and we did put out an email to the Color Computer mailing list and a post to Facebook asking people to send in questions for that interview, and we've received a handful. Yours was one of them, Ron, so you're on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So we are compiling a list of questions that Curtis is coming up with, I'm coming up with, and I'm sure we'll get some more from the community, and then hopefully Steve himself will maybe have some things that he'll know to speak about that we wouldn't even know to ask. So
yeah.
Well, Steve.
Plus, I'm having to do research to remember all this stuff.
Steve, did you ever? Where did you make the most of your money? How did you support yourself? I mean, you probably didn't on just Radio Shack writing or whatever, but how did you survive?
I've had a very long career doing technology. I've had stuff that's gone into space. My fingerprints are all over the DVD. It's just, cartridge systems, developed other systems for the internet and like that. So it's been all varied.
I would imagine in the heydays of the CoCo, you probably did okay too with the earnings there.
I will say that my royalties for the Christmas period were always very good.
Holiday seasons, right? So.
Yeah.
One thing I should mention too, like Steve and I have talked about it, Steve Bjork in here in this case, and both Steves actually, that because Steve has had such a varied and long career covering multiple parts of the industry, that this might actually end up being a multi-part interview, because otherwise you'd be sitting here for days. But we're still haven't quite nailed down what format we're going to do that. We might do it in a chronological order and have a couple of different interviews on different chunks of his career, just because there's so much to talk about.
And there's interesting stuff. I'm out here in California, so I spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley and doing things like going to the Homebrew Computer Society, being at the West Coast Computer Fair when the Apple II was introduced.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that because for people sending in questions, they don't just have to be CoCo related. I mean, I imagine most of them will be, but if you have some questions, relating to earlier parts of his career or later parts of his career, like stuff he's doing now or stuff he's done more recently, like publishing magazines and stuff that he did in the 90s, etc., that, feel free to ask anything.
Are you
related
retired now, Steve?
No. It's kind of like, do I see the light at the end of the tunnel? No. Considering that I've been working since I was 12, off and on, and then I had my first company when I was 18, I've had a long career. I really have. And I'm, just now 60. I've still got some life left in me.
Oh,
I hope.
We all do, yeah.
I'm 63.
We all can't have the Ron Delvaux's luxury life of leisure.
Yeah.
Or David Ladd's, for that matter.
I was a sign painter all my life. I was outside lettering windows.
Hey, everybody. This is Bill Noble, co-author of Nitrous 9. You are listening to CoCoTALK Live, the leading live CoCo talk show.
Good day, mates. This is Nick Marionettes, author of such color computer titles as Donut Disaster, Rupert Rhymes, and Rockstar Pilot. And I am here today to tell you about the world's most fabulous operating system, OS 9. OS 9 and its current incarnation, Nitrous 9, is the most advanced operating system ever created. And what makes it so good? Ease of use. I find OS 9 so incredibly intuitive that I haven't once cracked open the user manual, and yet I've been able to create such incredible games faster than the time it takes to sing Waltzing Matilda. Using OS 9, I expect my next game, Funstar, will be done this weekend and distributed exclusively on ROM cartridge. OS 9 forever.
Any resemblance to actual events to persons living or dead is purely coincidental.
We gotcha! So we'll have that coming up, and I'm looking forward to that. The more the merrier. If it has to be a 12-part interview.
One thing I'll say is it's really cool to be talking to people that, when I was younger and I got my Rainbow and I was reading about all these different people that programmed a computer, and to talk to them today is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that Bruce Moore is here right now.
One person I'd literally love to pull in on an interview if he can remember the stuff is Marty Goodman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We'll have to get a hold of Tim Lindner because I think he still talks to him fairly regularly. So,
yeah, I mean, he's a character. He lives in Berkeley and he belongs in Berkeley.
Is that kind of like Vegas? What happens there stays there?
No. All the elements you can think of Berkeley and what it's known for.
Yeah,
he's very summed
up in Marty.
Yeah, they are. If anybody belongs in Berkeley, it's him.
He's kind of the living embodiment of the Berkeley ethic, I guess.
Okay.
How about Frank Hogue? Is he
Frank Hogue?
Yeah, obviously.
He's very active on Facebook, especially in politics.
Yeah. We're friends on there, and I talk to him on occasion, and I've asked him if he's seen the CoCo stuff, but he hasn't really said anything.
No, he doesn't really pay too much attention to it anymore, I don't think. He is retired, so he's kind of like traveling around a little bit.
Wasn't he more a hardware guy, or?
No, he's a dentist he ran a dental thing, so one of his brothers was more of the hardware guy. What was his name? Bruce? I can't remember now.
My impression I got of him was
he's a salesman.
He's a salesman. He's a business guy.
Yeah. No, he had Bob Puppo and Bruce Eisen and a bunch of others doing some of the hardware and software stuff for him, so he was good at selling it. And he, of course, was quite famous for really pushing Flex in the early days, too.
See, I have a big problem where I start a hobby because I enjoy it. Next thing I know, I turn it into a business.
Yeah.
Well, you did something you love. That's what I did when I was a sign painter. I loved doing it, and it made it fun.
Well, that's why a lot of us are doing this retro computing hobby in the first place, is because it's fun. I don't get as much fun, running my latest Mac or PC stuff, to be honest. I don't. The operating systems and the computer hardware is so complicated now. I could never hope to understand how all of Windows works or all of Mac OS 10. Whereas the CoCo, it's small enough that a single person can grasp the whole thing.
Well, that's like the stuff I do for haunt hackers. I design these circuit boards. Matter of fact, I've got a schematic of a new board sitting in front of me, but it runs off of a chip called a Pickaxe, which is written in BASIC. Very simple, easy to understand, BASIC. So the people that buy my stuff, they also can get free software from me, but they can modify the software themselves, or they can write their own software to do a specific task. And it's kind of reminiscent of the original days of the CoCo. The reason why it came with BASIC was so that they knew they didn't have the software that everybody was going to need. They could write their own.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's something that's missing now.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, when I was using the CoCo, I drew, things because I'm an artist, and when I used my DS69 and did, I would go out with a camera and video a building or whatever, come back to the shop, digitize it, and then show the customer what the sign looked like on the building, which was like awesome future stuff.
Yeah, pre-visualization.
Yeah, or keep track of my invoices with the computer, which was interesting. And I was always paranoid about losing data, so I backed up. And then backups, and I was big at doing that. And it seems like it saved my butt over the years because I did it with my PCs too.
Sure.
I tried the online. Have you guys tried, online off-site?
Like Carbonite or something like that?
Yeah. And it started out cheap, and then they started jacking the price up, so I quit doing that.
Yeah, I mean, because I do IT for a living, I've got backups, and so I do all my local backing up to external hard drives and NAS drives, things like that. So
yeah.
Well, the next step for you, Steve, is to start backing up to Glacier via Amazon.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, it's basically literally cold storage. You back up your data of the day to their service, and That way, and then you just every so often, every day you back up everything that changes, and then about once a week you back up everything to it, and you just keep doing this type of backup, and it's unbelievably inexpensive because the data gets stored there, but it's not designed for quick retrieval. If you need the data, you can ask for it. Maybe a couple hours later, you get it.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hence the name Glacier Cold Storage, and it is cheap. I've got years and years of data there, and I don't think I'm paying more than maybe $10 a month.
Oh wow!
Remember,
that's worth looking into.
Remember the days where was it Risk or what was it where you had 2 hard drives and you'd automatically
RAID.
Yeah. Mirrored RAID.
Yeah, well, that still exists.
I had that for a while, and
standard to do that type of stuff. It's standard now. You put a NAS on your computer, and then your NAS every night backs up to Amazon Glacier.
Oh, it looks like I missed a message from Paul Fiscarelli. We'll see if we can't get him in here, even though we're almost done here.
Is that the winner?
Yeah. All right, we're gonna see if we can get him on. I'm not sure if he's still on Skype, but we'll try. All right. So we might have to reschedule that with him. We can probably, maybe over the weekend get that in.
There he is. He just popped up.
Hey,
Paul. Paul, are you there? We see him.
Paul, can you hear us?
Blink once for yes, 2 for no.
Oh, here's a comment from Jim Gary too. Jim Gary said he's been able to squeeze a lot of 32K games down to 20K. So I guess he's alluding at the fact that he might be able to squeeze Forest of Doom into being able to play on the MC10. So he says he could probably squeeze it in there, but he might not be able to do the play commands.
Well, there's also some machine code in there, so there's a rub.
Yeah. It's not impossible, but it's something that you probably just want to delegate. If somebody, if you wanted to have somebody port it for you, you let them do it, and not you don't get involved in it. But
you see load and then take a walk, or go to the park.
All right, so I'm not sure Paul's. Looks like he's here, but I don't know if he can hear us or we can't hear him.
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we hear you now.
Yep.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Drinking from that cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, we started off the show mentioning that you won. You won the contest. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure that I had won until today. Bruce was getting back to me and others, I guess. You saw the postings. There was a lot of concern and with shipping and timing and everything. Some people were getting it sooner than others and whatnot. But he announced it just before you guys went live, I guess, that I was the one that had won. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. And I have a quick question for you. How long did it take you to win? How many hours of game time play did you do?
So it took me, I was determined to go through until I won, and it took me about 7 hours yesterday to go start to finish. I was getting frustrated early on. I don't know if anybody else has it yet, but
were you really?
Well, if you did win fair and square, do you know what the other gift is?
Did you hear us talking about that? If anybody cheated, what they were going to get? Instead of a mug, they were going to get a douche.
Douche mug, yeah.
That crap.
So what had happened was when I first started playing, I didn't even really read through the guide, which I should have.
Read the manual.
Yeah, read
or
it.
Or else.
I I had no idea how hard this game was going to be. Watching Stevie play last week when they did the release party, I thought this was going to be pretty easy. Bruce said, "Yeah, 2 hours." I'm like, "Oh, I can fly through it," and no way. So the first couple times, I actually made a dash for the castle, and one time I made it to the castle, but I didn't even get in. I got killed by a Balrog, but
yes.
So I read through the manual a little bit and took his advice and just basically kind of did a perimeter thing where I was building up my level as much as I possibly could. And actually, I don't know if are you guys familiar with the game enough? Do you want a spoiler or?
No spoilers.
Quite a few people haven't got it yet, so I wouldn't spoil anything yet.
So there was one point where I had found something that allowed me to go to the castle pretty quickly, and it's a neat little addition that he put in there. I loved it, and I had enough gold that I could get there quickly, but I was only like level 2, and that's when the Balrog got me. So at that point, I'm like, I've just got to play this the way that it's designed to be played, and I just tried to level up as much as I possibly could. My final run probably took me maybe about 2 hours, just like Bruce had said, and it was hard. I just didn't think I was going to get back because I just kept getting attacked and attacked and attacked.
By the rats?
No, I was doing a lot of running. I mean, the couple times I was down to very little health, and I did take advantage of one of his hints / cheats at the end of the book there a couple times. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. If you haven't seen the book, I won't tell you.
No, don't tell.
I won't tell you. But it was hard. Much harder than I thought it was going to be, but so well worth it. And I don't know if Bruce shared with you guys or not. The way that he did the release of this, at first I was just like, damn it, we've got to wait for this thing. But I did notice that the anticipation and the build up to it was pretty special. It reminded me of the good old days of the CoCo back in the 80s when you had to mail away for games and stuff, and you had to wait in the mail patiently for them to show up, and it was just pretty cool. So
will you buy the sequel?
Absolutely. I was actually just going online earlier to buy another copy for my brother, who's a big CoCo fan too, so he'll love it as well.
No, that's awesome.
But we were both big fans of Naga back in the day.
Yeah.
And this was very reminiscent of it. When I saw Stevie and Bruce doing the gameplay last week, I'm like, oh, this is going to be such an awesome game. So I was so happy to get it, and it was awesome.
That's awesome.
So that's on the level 1 difficulty, right?
So I've been trying to play level 2 tonight. No freaking way. It's just, I don't know how you do it. That's my next goal, is to get through level 2, but so far no luck.
So really you had to take a screenshot of the victory screen, right?
Yes.
Now, did you get any other footage? Have you recorded any of your gameplay or your rage quitting or anything like that? Because I'd love to see some of that.
No, not yet, but I was thinking about doing it, setting up a Camtasia session or something and doing some actual.
Start on level 2. We'll probably hear a lot more raging.
All right,
You're playing on an emulator then, huh?
Yeah. So I started out on VCC, and I'm not a huge fan of VCC, so I switched over to MAME, and it just the colors and everything else are more reminiscent of a true CoCo. No, I haven't put my CoCo back together since getting back from Tandy Assembly. It's still apart, and I was cleaning up my my work area to get it set back up. But yeah, that'll be something else to add to the whole legacy vintage CoCo thing. So cool to play that on the actual hardware.
Yeah, I think I'd like to play it on my CoCo 3, and because I guess there's a little bit of a high-speed poke thing.
So you have 7 hours of video of this?
No video, just 7 hours of his life.
No. So
7 hours of his life he can never get back.
But he's got a mug to show for it.
He's got a mug to show for it.
Which is more than the rest of us do.
Yeah,
well, David's got one too, but it's just nothing that you want to be proud of.
No, he doesn't. No, he should be from now on be addressed as Sir Paul, because he is now the Duke
Sir
of
Paul.
Doom.
The Duke of Doom
for doing level 1, but there are higher ranks to be achieved. Of course, the one mug to rule them all is currently being forged. It is being hammered into shape, and it will be en route via the Black Rider postal system whenever they get around to delivering it to him. So
that's awesome.
That is so cool. Looking forward to that.
Well earned.
Well, I'm glad I happened to open up my email and see that you reached out to me, because I completely missed your Skype thing, because I got my screens are overlapping and stuff, and I just didn't see it. So I'm glad we got you on the show too, because we started off by mentioning that, and now we can kind of bookend that with having you here.
Thank you.
And you're welcome on any other future CoCo Talk. I've been having I've been having a lot of bandwidth issues, so I'm not able to stream right now. I also have some family obligations tomorrow that I'm not going to be here during the normal time. So we're doing this out of sync. But we'll, yeah. Hey Paul, do you want to talk about your project a little bit that you showed off at Tandy Assembly? Your kind of Disk Explorer thing.
Sure. Before we go there, though, Steve, one thing I was just going to say, last night I was supposed to play poker, and when I got home and, I told my wife I wasn't playing, she's like, why? I said I had a video game I was going to play. She's like, what are you, nuts? So, I mean, I've been looking forward to it so much to be playing that game, so I even skipped out on poker night to do that. So
wow.
But
would you win a mug at poker, honestly? I mean...
No, I'd be losing a lot of money at poker, so I definitely made the right choice there.
Really ahead of the game, yeah.
So so the program Stevie's referring to, it's something that I had brought to Tandy Assembly with me, and basically what it is, if you guys are familiar with what is it? The Tris tools for the regular TRS-80 Model 1, Model 3, Model 4 platform. It allows you to get in and manipulate disk images and take a look at disk images that you would use with an emulator. So basically what had happened was, and I actually started putting a blog together for this. At some point I'll be making that live amongst some other projects that I'm working on. But about 10 years ago, maybe, I think I started it, 2007. I had started collecting a bunch of disk images from all over the internet, wherever I could find them. And I soon found out that I was getting literally thousands and thousands of these disk images. And it was just so difficult to figure out what was actually on the images, whether or not I had duplicates, what was actually in the files. So I wanted a way to look at them and search through them that was a little bit more friendly than grep or something like that. So I just started coding this program in Visual Basic, and what it does is you basically say, all right, this is the directory where all my TRS-80 CoCo disk images are, and it'll go out and it'll just start parsing through the list of your virtual disk files, and it'll build a catalog that you can actually have a tree view into, that it'll allow you to actually, just like you were in a Windows Explorer or similar Finder type Explorer, take a look at your catalog of disk images. And from there, you're able to click on any of your disk images and actually do it like a virtual mount, so you can do like a directory listing. Right now, it's currently only working with Disk Extended Color Basic. You can read OS9 disk images, but you can't really manipulate them yet. But it gives you a bunch of different ways that you can actually take a look at the disk images. You can take a look, you can do searches through them, you can do search through the entire catalog. You can actually do like if anybody's familiar with like Jeff France's disk utility, it allow you to actually go in and edit disk images, and it's just kind of a neat little program. And like I said, I started it back in 2007, and with Tandy Assembly coming up about 6 months ago or so, listening to CoCoTALK, listening to the CoCo Crew podcast, listening to Trash Talk. It just really got me amped up to just kind of dust off the cobwebs and start working on it again and make it something more presentable. I'd say it's probably about 85% there. Most of the functionality's there. There's just a little bit of polishing off that I need to do with it. And at some point, I'll make it available for folks to start testing so I can get feedback on it. And it's just something I'm going to give to the community because it's just been a useful tool for me. I find myself referring to it when I'm looking for stuff or whatnot. But at some point, just make it available to the community, and whoever wants to use it can use it. But awesome. And one of the other things that it's allow you to do is go easily between your host OS and the disk images. So if you want to start copying files back and forth, the binaries or the basic files or whatever, it allow you to do that, or you can go back and forth between the virtual disk images. Some of the feedback I got from the folks at Tandy Assembly that I was showing it to, they were asking if I would at some point maybe have virtual hard drive images as part of it, which I think I might. I'll have to take a look at that. Another thing that I'm looking at is I started this again back in 2007, and when I did it, I was still big into Visual Studio, so I started coding it in Visual Basic. It was just really easy to do, a Windows-based form application, but I've gotten much more into Java, Python-based programming, so I know there's a lot of people in the community that are Linux users and also Mac users, so I may look at taking and doing a rewrite of it where it'll be cross-platform compatible. So we'll see how that goes.
This is a PC program?
Yeah, right now it's a PC Windows-based application. Okay.
Yep. It's something like that a long time.
Yeah, what I liked about it was not only being able to see what was on the discs, but then you had that extra magnifying glass where you could zoom in, and you were showing me how you could detokenize the BASIC. You could look at the listings of programs that were on that disk. It would do a disassembly, and you could look at the assembly code of a bin file. You were showing me like the hex view, where you could actually look at the data on the disk in a hex view, and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it was like
right.
Windows Explorer or Mac Finder for disk images on steroids. There was just tons of features and usability, usefulness, and visualization of what's on there, which is the hardest thing to do, because sometimes people will send me a bin file, and I'm like, all right, well, how the hell do I get this on my CoCo SDC? I don't know how to take a bin and put it on a DSK, and I'm not running those tools to do that. Somebody else will say, oh yeah, just use WinImage, whatever. And I'm like, dude, I don't have that tool. I don't know how to use it. So ease of use, so so yeah, the fact that you could now basically drag and drop things be kind of cool. Matter of fact, just since we've been talking about wishing for features, if there's a way to maybe extend that to also talk to the CoCo SDC, or I guess technically if it's on the SD card, you're looking at your disk images there, right? So
that's correct.
If, you could, you can kind of drag and drop things to your SD card that way.
Yep.
That's kind of cool.
Does your program use the word granules?
It does. Why is that a bad thing, Ron?
No, it's just something that when I was young, I thought granules. It looked real confusing, but I got it afterwards.
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure if David Ladd's here, but yep, it uses granules and sectors and tracks and all the stuff that he's intimately familiar with.
Yeah.
Indeed. Do we want to start another 2-hour floppy session?
No, not just. And one other thing that it does, it's kind of neat that some of the people at Tandy Assembly like for the bin files, the binary files. It'd allow you to launch them directly into an emulator. So you could basically just double-click one of the files from the Explorer, and it'll open it up in like XROAR or VCC. MAME, I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. I don't think you can do direct binary to executable within the emulator, but it's kind of a neat feature.
Yeah.
So when will you have something to release that people can try out or beta test?
So when I got back from Tandy Assembly, I spent probably another week where I was hardcore into it. the last 3 weeks or so have been extremely busy for me for work and
gaming. That's why.
Force of doom.
No, priority.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce, for delaying him on this.
Thanks a lot.
So, but it's one of those things that I've been, doing as I can find some time. I'm really hoping before Christmas there'll be something that I'm releasing to the community. But like I said, I'm working on a blog right now that I'm kind of trying to take lessons from like Glenn Hewlett and folks that have documented their work as they've been going along. There's a couple other little things that I'm working on, and I really wanted to share that with the community as I'm moving along on them.
So is this going to be like a Fiscarelli special, or what's the name of it going to be?
Right now, it was originally called TRS-80 CoCo Floppy Disk Explorer, but now it's Floppy Disk Tools. So CoCo Floppy Disk Tools.
Cool.
Why don't you call it, I don't know, like a LAD Explorer or something like that? So
you would think David would do something like this.
Yeah.
I got my hands in too many other jars right now.
Yeah. See, David can actually just touch a floppy and get that matrix view to it, and he can see all the code and already know what's on it. So he is one with the floppy.
Maybe it could be endorsed by David Ladd or something.
Endorsed by David Ladd, yeah.
I would welcome that endorsement.
Get his testimonial, put his quote on the...
Ease of use.
And granules.
Yes. Granules sounds like some type of Hidden Valley granola treat or something like that, It's like...
May the second be with you.
Yes. Very cool. I'm definitely glad you made it, Paul. Glad we got you before we're about ready to wind down.
No, thank you for touching base. I'm glad that I was able to join in late.
Yeah. All right. What else we want to talk about before we wrap things up? Anyone else got anything they want to throw out there? You've been kind of quiet, David.
Have I? Are you sure?
You have a tech segment? We can just start a whole tech segment right now. We'll just take this thing till 4 a.m. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's dance.
Oh, you ready? You sure? You positive? Curtis is snickering back there. He knows I could drag it out.
Yeah, you don't want to get me going on tech segment. I'll start talking about bubble memory again.
Bubble memory.
Hey, that's more than welcome.
All right. Well, I start
until next week.
I started off by saying this was episode 32, but I was corrected that it is episode 33. So we are going to bring episode 33 to a close. CoCoTALK, Hardware Talk. Very pleased to have everybody with us tonight, as always. I'm very grateful for people who volunteer their time to be part of this show, and that even includes David Ladd. So David, thank you for being here, and Curtis, thank you for being here, as well as Mark Overholser and Jim Brain with his. Jim Brain got his hair did and his nails did. He's looking glamorous there. Wallace Ron Delvaux is with us. Paul Fiscarelli was here. Grant Leighty was here. Mr. Steve Bjork was here. International celebrity Bruce Moore of Forest of Doom fame, hot off the Ellen show. What is Kelly's Kelly? Is it Kelly and Ryan now on the show? I can't keep up with Kelly's co-hosts anymore. Bill Nobel was here, as well as Michael Brant. Michael Brant had a lot to say tonight. It was just all in Skype chat. So yeah. So another great show. Thank you all for being here. Just to give you an idea, it's because it's already like 11 o'clock for me. I'm not sure if I'm going to edit this tonight, and I don't know how much time I'll have to work on editing this tomorrow before I can post it. But it'll be available sometime tomorrow. Hopefully by 2 o'clock, but it might be later. But we'll get it out as soon as we can.
Thanks for doing this for us.
Oh, no problem. Thank you guys. I'm glad to keep CoCoTALK going. It would be a shame to break tradition and not have it every week,
Hey, this is Bruce Moore, author of Forest of Doom, and you're watching the original gamer, Stevie Stroh.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite in the forest of doom.
For the tiny color computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017, if you dare.
Hi, this is John Linville.
And Neil Blanchard.
We are the CoCo crew. I hope you're enjoying watching Stevie Stroh play video games, especially the CoCo games. And when you're done with that, check out our podcast at CoCoCrew.org.
Hi, I'm Mike Rowan, and you're watching the original gamer, Stevie Stroh. And when you're done watching, come over and listen to the CoCo Crew podcast.
Where can you keep up on current news and information about the color computer, Dragon, MC10, and other Motorola 6809-based computers? Only one place. The CoCo Crew podcast. Each month, John Linville and Neil Blanchard deliver news, reviews, technical segments, and interviews, all about the Radio Shack Tandy color computer and compatibles. It's North America's premier color computer podcast, the CoCo Crew podcast. Visit CoCoCrew.org and start listening today.
Thanks for listening to another episode of CoCoTALK. We certainly hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, why not check us out on the web at CoCoTalk.live, where you can watch video replays of all of our live episodes, as well as send us feedback and suggestions for the show. We'd certainly love to hear from you. Until next week, I'm the original gamer, Stevie Stroh. Keep on CoCoing, CoCo forever. Have a CoCo day, and bye-bye, everybody.